Aha! Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, and welcome. Hello, Blondie, Squirrel, lovely Lou. How are you doing today? Wow, I think that's the first time I think we've ever started up and nobody's hit the button. So we'll just sneak on past it. Uh, left my drink just around the corner, so I'm just like, oh, there it is. It comes like I'm going to grab it. There you go. There you go. There's a party. We love it. You forgot about the button. Well, because you forgot about the button, you let the special guest star for tonight's oh so lovely Talk Tuesday is AM Com Nanos has grabbed a button. I don't know about you ladies, but I know for certain he's up there Jansen, bobbing, jopping, making it look hot. Oh, keeping it so fancy, so fantastic. We're talking about the one and only, the biggest man around on town. He is going to come down and show you how to break it down. We are talking about Com. Ooh, and you know you love it. We're going to get down. We're going to get fancy. We're going to get funky. He's going to get up and dance the Chunky Monkey right up there on that table. Let's go. But right now, this party is for Com because he hit that button before anybody else. So, ladies, hold tight and calm down. I happen to know for a fact right now that a particular individual is laughing hysterically on the other side because not only can he hear what's going on, but he can see what's going on. Oh, how impressive is that, right? Loving it, loving it. Welcome in, welcome in. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. For those of you that are joining up here, that is late in the evening, we appreciate you coming in. I have a special guest tonight, and we promise it will not disappoint. No, absolutely not. Tonight's fabulous special guest is a fantastically brilliant, musically gifted, and souls-born dominant, a variety streamer, power washer aficionado. This fantastic future cyberpunk hero has had a few missteps and many a wink. A general expert on all things balls and blues, he's certain to keep you in suspense with his compassion and commitment to the bit. This commander of the keyboard and quick-witted hero wears the very best of neck and tire, and he is absolutely certain to inspire. Oh, baby, you know who we're talking about. That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to meet my fabulous guest tonight. We're talking about the one, the only, the fabulous AM Com Nanos. Welcome in, my friend. Welcome to Talk Tuesday.
How you doing, buddy? It's good to be here. I'm calling it now. That cyberpunk one, that was a deep cut. Power wash, deeper still.
You know, for those of us that know and are in touch with our calmness, then we're already in the know.
Oh, a privilege and what honor.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, you know you've been dying to see this lovely man. He's been absent from the streaming scene, but I promise you he hasn't changed one bit. He's still just as fantastic as he's always been. Welcome, my dear friend, to Talk Tuesday.
Thank you very much. Oh, it's nice to see what I look like now on the screen.
Yeah,
oh,
right?
That is a bizarre feeling. I'm mirrored on one, not mirrored on the other. This is nice. But thank you very much. Oof. Good to be here. And hello to the chat.
There you go. We even had a few I haven't seen floating around in a while, but usually I catch up with them on a moments chat because we even got the official Team No Balls blast in the chat.
Team No Balls, Team Tom Balls. There's a lot of ball teams. It has been a short while, hasn't it? I have seen something of a changing of the guard on Twitch streams. A lot of the old names, you don't see them around quite as often anymore. But I think most of us are still lurking around and about. I think we're still here.
Well, we're all still doing our things. I think some people are still active. They're just removed to more like semi-active. I'm still trying to twist a Lou to get on here for a Talk Tuesday. Just because I still think it would be fantastic at least to sit down and have a gentle conversation.
To be quite frank, if you're willing to apply some pressure to Lou, I'm willing to apply a lot as well. I think we can probably get her on sooner rather than later.
Hey, there you go. Lady Teddy, hello. Welcome in. Welcome
Lady
in.
Teddy. Well,
You
that's
are
a
just in
privilege.
time. So, this is Talk Tuesday. This is the format where we sit around and I bring on a special guest. In this particular case, our fantastic guest is the AM Com Nanos. Com, to those of you in the know. He is going to be answering all of your pertinent and valuable information that you want to know about him. Get to know all of that fantastic Com lore. It's
I've
a
just
funny
remembered how much
thing.
the unofficial con lore is incredibly sexually based. I've just remembered.
Well, let's be fair, right? The stream is marked for mature audiences, so we may not act mature all the time, but it's there.
Oh, that's fine then. Bring them on.
Well, okay. So to be fair, I got to see this gentleman in person. He showed up on my front steps, and I think he's been regretting it ever since. So, we were up to way late in the morning, just running our mouths. And yeah, it was definitely definitely a
I think
thing.
it was one of the later nights of the whole trip, I believe. Before a very, very long drive the next day as well. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to keep you up. That's fine. I'm usually pretty talented at keeping people up way past their bedtime.
We are starting well. This is how I like to
It's
go.
good. Yeah, we're on the East Coast, lady Teddy. We are on the East Coast, so not the. I think he went to the Midwest, but yeah, he's went way out of his way to come over here to the East Coast.
Yeah, you were pretty much the only, except for New York City, you were pretty much the only real stop on the East Coast. Everything else was either Midwest or the South.
No, you didn't
So
say.
it was a heck of a diversion.
You didn't say hi to Green Vulture.
Does that count as the coast? If it does, then yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's East Coast. The East Coast is everything up and down that touches the ocean on this side. And some will tell you, like West Virginia, they'll still claim West Virginia or parts of West Virginia as East Coast. So,
well, if that's debatably still East Coast, then definitely Green Vulture counts. I have 100% visited her as well. So 2 stops on the East Coast, except for New York City.
There you go. But yes, for all those new to Talk Tuesday, right? So there is a 1 point channel point redeem down there. Hang out long enough, you'll get the channel points to hit the button. You're welcome to ask any questions that you want. As the questions come in, I will field them to you. We will we'll ask you questions. We'll have our conversations. We'll talk. We'll get lost in conversations. We will take deep cuts and deep runs down into no man's land on a regular basis. Typically what'll end up happening is 3 hours will come and go so fast. You'll be like, where'd time go? And I'll be like, sorry, that's the end of our of our Talk Tuesday before you're ready for it. It always happens.
I can make the floating head effect a lot worse. How's that?
Yeah, I was going to say, that's getting a little hot. Oof. Spicy. But yes, so as the questions come in, I'll ask them. You get to answer. We'll talk. I'll go, that's interesting. If at any point in time you utter the phrase, that's a good question, because this chat is notorious for asking things that causes my guests to go, that's a good question. That's what the tag question down there is for. If you mention something along those lines, we will hit the button. There will be a little bit of fanfare. That counter will go up. We'll poke fun at you. And then we'll move on with life. That's it's become a thing around here. People will just do that. But it's just it's something to keep you occupied, so you don't go, that's a good question. Son of a.
Okay. I'm ready. Consider me ready.
What do you mean, where's the question redeem? It should be up. It should very well be up. Because all of the other stuff, you know what?
I'll have a look on my end as well.
Oh, there.
Now I see it.
It looks like. Why did it? it switched everything. Okay, hang on. I see what the problem is. Let's do this. So I got a little command that's supposed to turn all this stuff on, and it didn't run.
You've been let down by the computer.
Okay, so to be fair, this particular piece of program I've been in the process of wanting to get rid of and replace anyways, because it does stuff like this where it just doesn't work. There you go. It should be there now.
Check on my end as well. Looks good for me.
Yep. Everything should be good to go. So yes, hit the button, ask the question. We'll get it. We'll field it over to you. If at any point in time you decide that you don't want to answer the question, Com, you're welcome to say, no, we're going to skip that one and move on. It does happen, so don't feel like you're obliged to answer every question that comes in. And if we get questions that I don't think are appropriate to be asked, I will pick fun of the questions and pre-answer them for you. We've had such questions that come in like, oh, what's your social security number? Like, so that you know, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why do you keep asking this? Oh, here's the last 4 digits of your credit card number, 555.
You'd think they would remember that by now, after all these times.
Exactly, right? Seriously, right? Yeah. So, things like that. So I will pre-flag your questions, and then we'll feed them to you. As is tradition around here, exclamation puzzle will get you a link to the puzzle that you see on the screen there. If you want to play the puzzle, work on it while we're doing this, you're welcome to do so. And that goes for you too, Com. If you want to play with the puzzle while we're doing this, if it'll help distract you, by all means.
Oh no, I've got a very, very singular objective today. Very singular. Can't do 2 things at once.
And beyond that, generally, we're going to sit here, we're just going to talk nonstop and get completely lost. And as is tradition around here, we have 2 questions we start off every one of our interviews with. The first one, and for me, this is usually one of my most curious questions about the name A.M. Komnenos. Where does that come from? What's the story on that one? Because I feel like there's something deep on this one.
Yeah, there's a long story attached to it, but whether it's an interesting story is another question. So this goes back to when I was a teacher. This would have been around 2013, 2012, so about 10, 12 years ago. Mm-hmm. And this was around the time that I'd been a few years out of university, and when I was at university, Facebook had started to really get into its stride, and it was really widely used by everyone in my social group. Now, I became a teacher a few years after leaving university, and this meant that Facebook is now also being used by all of my students. Mm-hmm. And these would have been people that I didn't particularly want able to find me on social media. So I thought I need to find some sort of name, some sort of sobriquet that I can use online that can be a placeholder for me. So my real name, which is redacted, would be replaced by the name Komnenos, not spelled quite like this. It's a Greek word. There's a few different ways to spell it. And that would be used on Facebook. That would be used on any other social media platform. I believe Facebook and LinkedIn were the 2 big ones at the time that I was using. Right. And for where the first 2 parts are a part of my real name, so the A and the M, that's a part of my real name, the Komnenos, is purely taken from elsewhere. And as for where it comes from, I studied medieval history in university. So that's what I've got my undergrad in. That's what I've got my master's in. That's what I've got my partially completed doctorate in. That's never getting done, believe you me. And
partially completed.
They never gonna happen. Alexios Komnenos I was the Byzantine emperor, so the Eastern Roman Empire. He was the emperor at the exact time of the First Crusade. He was the one who had to manage the First Crusade as it passed by the walls of Constantinople. And the next 3 generations, I believe, it's been a while, John Komnenos, Manuel Komnenos, and the other one. There's another one. This was a very prestigious imperial family of the Byzantine Empire. So I had written my thesis on this individual. So when I was looking for a name that I could use to be discreet, but not too discreet, on social media, particularly Facebook, which many people I knew from university, I chose that as my last name. And it's stuck with me ever since. The problem is, all of my students studied history. they knew what I'd written my thesis on. So half the motherfuckers found me on Facebook anyway.
I was going to say, it doesn't sound like you got very far away.
It was a I did a secret name. How about James Pond? Yeah.
Yes.
It wasn't the finest hour. But at that point,
It's
it was so far
fantastic.
down the well. So many people had found me that I just went with it. And now it's become part of who I am.
There's nothing wrong with that, right? But a good name is well. So it's one of those, like, so I have a few people who have come on whose name includes numbers of some sorts, right? So you would be one of the few people who has a name that doesn't include numbers, because you would be an original user of that name, which makes it nice. Now, there could be other AMCOM nanos out there, but you're the first. Just like there's potentially other No Rhythms out there, but I would be the first who broadly decided to butcher the spelling of it.
I will have you find that I am the first, but not on Gmail. Someone already has it on Gmail.
Wow, no way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's
so
impressive.
I've had I did have a very brief exchange of email with them at some point asking, is this an active email? Do you actually use it? Because I thought I'll try and get it. I was just polite, just asked. They were someone who actively uses it. Turns out it's their real name. So I thought their claim to it was slightly greater than mine.
Yeah.
It was just trying to remain anonymous on Twitch, of course, a platform where I routinely show my face.
Yeah. Oof. That's impressive. That's well, so I imagine that they have the A and the M are probably their initials, and Comnanos would be their surname, as it were. So I can see that.
Yeah, I know their name actually, and they are their first two initials. So it's initial for the pre-name, initial for the first of their middle names. I think they're Greek, so I think they've got two middle names as well. And then Komnenos was their surname. So yeah, their claim was so much stronger than mine.
Oh yeah.
And at some point, you have to admit defeat.
Yes, and I absolutely get that one.
So my email does have a number on it.
You know, it happens. These things happen. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. I took the number 1 on the email as well, so you know I can still feel like I was first. I wasn't thinking two, not a fucking chance.
Lou, for the resub, though, I imagine you did that more so because you didn't want to be interrupted by commercials during this. It's fine.
Everything she does motivated by pure self-interest.
It's fine.
And hello, Kitsune.
Yes, the fabulous and lovely Miss B is here. She also was an interviewee for Talk Tuesday a couple months back. We had a lovely time.
I thought that was more recent. Goodness, my sense of time is entirely skewed. No, it must have been a few months back. Yeah.
Huh. It was. It was a fantastic, lovely conversation. We got to learn all about her strong desires for foxy things. Though I've given her a very name.
Similar conversation.
I mean, it's already getting spicy.
Oh, baby. Yeah, I was gonna say that one layer might be coming off. Who knows? Start on the lower half of the body.
To be fair, I've already come out. When you're talking about lower halves, pants are optional around here. Are you kidding me?
Hold on. British pants or American pants? I need to be clear on these rules.
I don't think it matters.
Oh, thank goodness. Get them off.
So the second question we normally launch into, and then we start right down into rabbit holes after that. What got you started streaming? Like, what was the kickoff for that? It's like what got you started?
Yeah. So to make a short story incredibly long, I am not really a gamer. I've never really been a big player of video games. I enjoy video games. I've got a lot of nice memories of playing video games as a kid, but I would never have
Hmm.
considered myself really a video gamer. So I have these enormous blank spots when it comes to video game culture. I think I stopped playing video games in around 2010 when I was leaving university. Then I played for a few weeks in sort of 2014. Then I played for a few weeks in 2018, then a few around 2020. That was really my approach to gaming. I didn't really buy consoles or own consoles. I would just play once in a while. And I liked it when I did, so I wanted to make it a bigger part of my life. But the thing I noticed when I really started gaming, which was around 20, yeah, probably early 2020, yeah, it would have lined up with COVID very nicely, was I didn't really always finish games. There were a few that I did. So I remember getting into Bloodborne, which I finished, fuck knows, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Spider-Man 2, I think it's Spider-Man 2. PlayStation 4 Spider-Man, probably
Hmm.
played that through 3 or 4 times. Final Fantasy 7 Remake, which came out at just the right time for me, did that twice. Death Stranding I did once. But I had this enormous pile of games where if they were 30 hours long, I would play 20. If they were 4 hours long, I'd play 3. Yeah, I would just get quite far in. It's a bit like when I read books sometimes. You know, I get about 85% of the way through a book, and when I feel that or more than halfway already, when I feel that there's fewer pages in my right hand than my left hand, all of a sudden I'm reading a bit quicker and the thumb's flicking through a few pages, and oh, that chapter seems short. I'll skip that one.
Yeah, I'll
And
come back
I
to that.
and I thought if I streamed games, I would almost
Hmm.
have to finish them, and it would be a nice chance to fill in some of these blank spots. And that started pretty well. Um, so I initially began with, oh gosh, okay, Monster Hunter World, bad example because you can't really finish it, but the intent was to get all the way through the game, and I finished the main game, so I'm counting that one. Hollow Knight, which I still insist I finished. Apparently, there's 3 endings. I say fuck off. There's one. So played Hollow Knight all the way through. Uh, then Baldur's Gate 1, which I managed to play through. I played it as a kid and I'd never finished it. It's probably about 40 hours long with a bunch of side quests. I played about 30. But now, played, finished. And that was the intent.
Nice.
And then that fell apart. The further I got into streaming, the more games got tossed by the wayside. Lies of P, that ain't gonna happen anytime soon. Dave the Diver, Dredge, all of those. But yeah, the real intent was I'm gonna get into gaming and I'm going to deliberately focus on finishing games. And
Right.
I am better at that now than I was. Not perfect yet.
I was going to say, to be fair, right? There are a number of games that I have started on stream, did one stream moment, went, that's a nice enough game, and never touched it again. Like it's gathering dust in my library. So and there's been games that on stream I played 30 minutes, went, okay, this definitely has an audience that it would appeal to. I would not be one of those target demographics, and we're gonna switch games.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very normal thing to do with video games, specifically as a medium. Because I feel we generally don't do this with films. It's such a
Right.
short time dedication. I mean, what's a long film? 3 hours plus. I mean, that's already we're thinking, that's a bit of a marathon, a bit of an epic. Gonna need a toilet break halfway through. This is a big film. You'll probably still give it that time. The average film, 2 hours, 1.5, maybe 1.5 is a bit short.
Yeah. I would almost argue with that one because Titanic was 4 hours and I was out after an hour.
Yeah, not my favorite film. That's a turgid pile of shit in there.
I came
I got
back
no
just to
problem with the
watch.
ending.
I came back just to watch him go under when he dies and they let him fall into the water, go down. I cheered at that point. The looks I got in the theater over that one was not.
I will give them credit for it. That was a beautiful image. It was just a shame that they found it right at the back of a 3-hour-long stretch of turd on the ground. It's just a shame it was placed there, as opposed to in something genuinely beautiful. Yes, that would have been generally my thought, though. Is I think that video games and books they find themselves in this odd position where you have to really dedicate time to them, really dedicate time. And that was what I always really struggled with. And I think the other thing that put me off as well was video games do something quite unique that other media doesn't do, where it tests you halfway through. Let's say you're playing Elden Ring and you need to get two of the runes, great runes, to access the great city. Okay.
Yep.
Well, if you can't get those two great runes, the game essentially says, "Fuck you, you're not going any further." A book is never going to do that. You're not going to finish
No.
chapter 3, and then there's going to be, okay, now how about the major themes of this book? Have you been following this subplot? It's never going to happen. So that
I know.
oddness of video games, I always wanted to engage more with.
Right. Well, and so there was a book I used to type that I used to read when I was younger. It's called Choose Your Own Adventure. And I found those were fantastic books because if I didn't really feel like reading a book all the way through, I could get very clever and shortcut my way to one of the 4 or 5 different endings at the back end of the book. Because you can just kind of look, okay, turn to page whatever, and you could just kind of hop through and be like, okay. Like the book starts out the same. Like the first couple of pages you read always kind of starts out the same. And then once you start making your choices, it diverges from there. And then you end up on a page, one of these pages that are somewhere in the middle to the back end of the book that is the culmination of that plot line that you were following. But I found those ones were slightly more engaging because I didn't have to read 300 pages to get from start to finish of the story to get a plot through.
Right. Well, frankly, this is the approach that I think I took with Lies of P. At some point, I decided that last death was the final death, and I'm never going back. I concluded the story; it just didn't have the ending the developers necessarily intended it to have. Choose Your Own Adventure books, by the way. When I was a kid, I used to adore those. I used to absolutely adore them.
Those are so good.
I couldn't pick one out now. Like if you told me to remind myself of a specific one and give you the story, I couldn't do a single one. Not one.
No.
Although I do remember one scene where a guy was pole vaulting. The pole snaps and he's impaled upon it in front of the entire school in school athletics. I remember that one scene from a book. No idea what book. Well, no idea what the story was. But that stuck with me. And I never did the pole vault.
Yeah, that's a little dark. Or 2-minute mysteries.
Who I believe clapped and applauded when Jack died in Titanic. You don't get to call
absolutely
now, sir.
Absolutely, I would do it again.
Well, lucky for you, you can access it now on streaming services.
Well, let's face facts, right? So for me, at that time when we were going to movies and whatnot, 2-hour movies were fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like I will go and sit through a 2-hour love scene movie, whatever, for the missus, whatever. And I can deal with those. Right? That doesn't bother me nearly as much. We call those chick flicks. I'm sorry. Back in those days, I wanted to go and watch like Demolition Man, blow half the movie up. There's nothing for a plot. It's just explosions, shoot the bad guy, explosions, bad guy dies. Yay, we get the girl, off we go. Those were the types of movies that I watched back in the day. Like that was my demographic, right? So anything that we
watched Rocky many times. I know exactly.
I like the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Let's not even go down that line.
I've never seen that. I've seen Rocky, but I've never seen that. It's probably the most culturally uncool thing I will say all evening, at least for
now. It's okay. When you've got a line, and I will wait for you not to have something in your mouth before I quote the line from the movie. When you've got a line.
Say, by the way, hello, Tom, because Tom arrived and I nearly missed it, and Tom is fantastic.
Yeah. No, you're welcome to say hi to whoever you want to.
So hi, Tom.
They're all here for you. We're just having a conversation. It's a podcast style conversation. We've got a whole bunch of questions lined up. We will get to them all. I promise. I haven't forgotten any of them. I haven't lost any of them. But we have done the thing where we've gone down a rabbit hole of a conversation, and so
yeah, it happens.
It happens. Anyways, yes, the line. So you go watch the Rocky Horror Picture Show. You go watch this. 4 lines that come out of like one of the main characters. I'm not going to even tell you who the character is. You'll have to go watch the movie. You just know that there's a main character, and he walks up to the husband, jumps in his bed, and he's like, "Oh, you're not going to tell my wife." That's his reaction. And then in the very next scene, he's over in the wife's bed, and she's like, "Oh, you're not going to tell my husband." Like,
it's a seminal movie. I need to see this.
It is such a good movie.
I feel like to admit that you've never seen that is along the same lines as having never seen Star Wars, having never seen Lord of the Rings.
It is such a good film.
That's often the case, but it feels as though that's on a similar level. I will do my best to redress the situation. I will make a point of watching the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah, you have to go watch it. If for nothing more, I Norson. The musicals are fantastic in it. And you'll recognize like a lot of the talent that's in there so they got what is his name?
I was gonna say Michael Keaton, but that's Beetlejuice, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's my brain has now officially left me.
But it was a pleasure knowing it.
Just some of the music on there. So they got like a lot of really cool Meatloaf. That's what it was. Like Meatloaf gets in. Okay. Yes, he gets in there and he sings. I'm like, who was this? It was a popular rocker. I'm like, oh yes,
that's pretty damn cool,
right?
No one told me that.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you that.
I'm not gonna say I'm a Meatloaf fan, but come on.
Well, but I mean, he had good music.
Rocky Horror. Well, it's written down. It will now probably never be watched, but it is written down.
Yes. Skywalker 101 has been on a few of these. So I had, so Jem's a mod, but she's also a recently begun streamer. We also had a Mr. Bonk show up, who's also a brand new to streaming. Both lovely people.
That warms the heart.
Oh, absolutely. They're gorgeous. Jem has been doing a lot of terror-filled gaming. So she squeals and then she gets lost. Oh. Like, don't give her a map. She can't find her. But
okay. Don't give her a map, but do give her terror. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm learning.
Hashtag called out, right?
Seeing you soon. Sorry, that was incredibly weird. I shan't do it again.
It's been such a good time. Shallow Life says, I found it. I don't know. She found the button, so we're gonna move on. Blue Balls would like to know. We're gonna start diving into a few of these questions. Here it comes. Here it comes. You ready?
Question of an asshole.
Hold on to your pants. I'm gonna try and do this in my real voice. Right? we're gonna reach down here, right? So Ms. Blue Balls would like to know, why do you think your mom loves me more than she loves you?
I would like to say that it's probably because of your sexual prowess with my mother. But honestly, I think if you fucked my mum, you couldn't fucking handle it. I am certain of that. So I don't know. This is going to remain a mystery. Maybe it lies more on my fault. Maybe it's less of a praise to you and more of a slam to me. What do you think? I think I might twist myself. Oh, that is outstanding. Whose fault was that? Whose fault was that?
It's
watching. Oh my god. She has also described. I've also now described my mother as incredibly sexually gifted, which I'm quite thrilled about.
I'm like, okay, how much therapy you're going to need from answering that particular question?
The budget does not extend that far. But I think I'm going to need a very supportive group of friends. And possibly spirits, because I guarantee you that the beers I put next to me are not going to fucking suffice. Thanks, Lou. That was a great question.
Miss Kitsune B would like to know merch when.
Jesus God, I'm going to sound like an absolute fucking degenerate. Right, all of the merch that we've had proposed so far has been very sexually themed, all of it, and
I'm surprised not at all.
I mean, I okay, you've probably seen the sex positive like tag that you will see oftentimes around on Twitch. It's often might be a stretch, but you will see the sex positive tag. I feel it doesn't suffice for the attitude we have to sex and sexuality over on our stream. So with us, everything is sort of positively sexy rather than sex positive. Rather than asexual, we are asexual. That kind of thing. So we've had things like, you know, if we aren't mounting, we ain't even living. Com sluts, of course, that's a big one. I mean, with a name like Com, honestly, the name does a lot of heavy lifting. You really don't have to use a great amount of imagination to make this merch work.
Yeah, no, that name carries a lot of weight all on its own. Like, it does a lot of work.
Bro, if you speak German, you haven't even got to fucking like make a joke. It's already there. Afrikaans, I think, as well. So merch when? I think as soon as I find a printer who has few enough moral scruples to print some of this stuff. It's probably going to have to be in a country that doesn't have too many laws. We're going to have to look for some kind of failed state. But then we'll get you something, Kitsune. The Kama Sutra, that was one. It was going to be tastefully illustrated with images of myself and Gareth Bale demonstrating all of the sex positions. Which I'm sure his agent wouldn't have a problem with.
No, absolutely.
So to answer the question.
Again?
So to answer the question. Again? So to answer the question of merch when. I don't know. I don't know.
Hi, morning. Welcome in. You've come into a very, very much so unhinged version of Talk Tuesday.
Yeah, this is filthy. The more serious answer would be I don't feel the inclination to make any merch in the short term until I get back to regularly streaming. And even then, I'm not a big fan of the merch generally. So maybe I might do something like a small, just collection, honestly, of stuff that I will give you if you want it. Like I will give you a fucking hat with some of these things on, rather than making you buy it. But when I get back to streaming regularly, I'll probably look into doing something like that. Just I like the idea of you walking around with an image of me penetrating Gareth Bale on your head.
Somehow, I don't think Gareth Bale will appreciate that imagery.
Again, I'm going to need some kind of failed state. I'm going to need somewhere copyright law doesn't apply, or image rights. Well,
let's see. Miss B would also like to know, other than Final Fantasy, what's your favorite genre of game?
Can I just very quickly say, Mr. D's here? Oh, Mr. D, yes, that makes me a very happy man. Com mouse leave in 2025. Yeah, we're not spelling com that way though. It's good to see you. It's been a very long time. So that was from Kitsune again, was that right?
Yep.
Other than Final Fantasy, what game? I'm a very, very one-track mind sort of gamer. I don't like a huge amount of games, and when I like a game, I'm really, really into it. For example, with music, I'm generally not that. I will have a few artists that I like, but then I'm happy to expand out and beyond that. With gaming, I tend to find a few things I like and then stick with it. So I don't even know if I could use the word genre to say that there's a genre of gaming I like, where I could say that if you give me a turn-based strategy, I'm probably going to like it. Or if you give me a 4X, I'm probably going to like it. I guess.
If you give him a Love and Fury, he's definitely going to like it.
Oh, that's literally all I want. If you were to, oh, I don't know. I like games that end with a defined story. I like a game with a small cast of characters. I like my game to be no more than about 15 to 25 hours long. I like going on adventures. I like being in fantastical places. So I think is it a genre, the adventure? Things like Uncharted, Tomb Raider.
Well, there are adventure genre games, yes.
Yeah, I wondered if the word is almost too broad. I think almost every game I like is going to fall into that. If a game is too open-ended, along the lines of a strategy game, for example, where a lot of the charm comes from the replayability and the different scenarios you're going to make next time, Civilization in particular, I'm going to like it, but it's not a genre I'd be interested in. Anything multiplayer, it's probably not my jam. Honestly, if I want to get my ass kicked by kids, I can just go to the store over there. There's a particularly violent group. I don't need to go online for that. Yeah. So if a game has a short story, 15, 20 hours, something like that, it's going to allow me to duck in and out as well.
Right.
Which is where Persona lost me. I thought Persona 5 was a tremendous, tremendous game. But the amount of time that you sometimes spent in between save points, for example, I felt like its demand on my time was too high. My goodness, I'm not asking for a genre of game here. I've just realized I've got a series of check boxes it has to fill. It has to respect my time. That's it. Not too long. Actually, it's all about time, isn't it? And
I was going to say, yeah, that's another time-based one.
And I want the protagonist to be a protagonist. I'm not a fan, really, of the voiceless protagonist. I like my protagonist to have their own motivations, their own ideas, their own desires, which is where I think Mass Effect appealed to me a lot more than Dragon Age did. As much as I love Dragon Age, I liked the idea of having this defined Commander Shepard. Yeah, you could alter him. You could make him face the world in the way that you would do it, but he was still defined within the limits of who he was.
You're
sorry
you're kind of.
This is not an answer.
But no, because you're talking about you're talking about an adventure style game that while it has the concept of variable endings, the core nature of the game, the plot doesn't change much. It doesn't really deviate. It's a very linear trajectory of the gameplay, and whether you coin a term I've heard many times, faff about, or you get straight to the story. It doesn't really change. So like Mass Effect has that for you, right? I was going to suggest, maybe you should try some roguelites because, they're nice, they're quick, they're really kind of one-dimensional in that there's a multitude of different ways, but it's a very clear path, right? And you just play that. What changes is not so much the plot, the directionality of the game. What changes there is how you play the game. So you can tackle that game many different ways, discover new ways and methods to go about playing that game. Dead Cell would be one. I would say because Dead Cell you do this thing where you're constantly unlocking new things, right?
Right.
And Hades is another one. Worst place Hades.
I think I could
you unlock things, right? You unlock things, but it's basically it's a new run every time, and depending on what you select to go in there, it changes the play of the game. Hi, sir. Right. Welcome in.
Hey, Super. It's good to see you. Well, I'm thinking of games along those lines that have appealed to me. It's a genre I've never really dived into beyond the sort of service value. I think Rogue Legacy was probably the only one that I put a significant amount of time into, and it was probably no more than 15, 20 hours, which is really when most games will hit their limit with me, and that's it. I will decide in the first 2-3 hours whether I'm going to play you at all. But then if you're much longer than 15 or 20, with some exceptions, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I love you. With few exceptions, I'm generally going to hit my limits around that point.
Right.
But yeah, roguelikes is a genre which I remember getting a lot of. FTL as well, I believe I played. I had a great time with that. So maybe that genre does do something for me. I just haven't really gotten around to playing anymore.
Yeah. Maybe it's something you take a little bit of a more dive into. You might find that you like the so roguelites are more about replayability, which is nice. And so you get so a lot of that, you get the plot for the game kind of like shotgunned into you at the start.
Right.
So you know what the target is, you know what you're doing, you know what you're going, you know how you're going to get there, and then what you're now working towards is figuring out what how you want to play to get there. What sort of mix and match of things you're going to try to find a play style that you like, or experiment with new play styles. Story doesn't really change. Your protagonist is right there. He's front and center, and you know.
Well, that's where I really did enjoy the time with Rogue Legacy. Is it called Rogue Legacy? Rogue Legend? Rogue Legacy, I think.
Right.
Was honestly that if I can be entirely truthful about it, story is being fucking generous. It has essentially a text box at the start and a text box at the end, and I'm not going to have you try to tell me that's a narrative. You know, the grand you personally. But the different quirks that you had every time that you go in with your new warrior. You know, this one was obese, this one was skinny, this one could jump higher, this one was slower, this one was faster, this one was yada yada yada. And the basic classes you had, I did enjoy that every time. It almost felt like a new game, especially with the reshuffling of the maps as well. Hi, Lychee, good to see you.
Hi, Lychee.
Especially with the shuffling of the maps as well. Yeah, I did enjoy that. Maybe roguelikes would be a game genre that I would like, but I tend to find that the big limiting factor for me, honestly, with gaming isn't genre. It really is time, and it's how many games am I going to get to play in a year, for example. And it doesn't always add up to that many. So I will tend to prioritize something that is just fairly accessible, which is where I think adventure works very, very well. You know, you're going to go in, you're going to play for 15, 20 hours. You're going to have a beginning, you're going to have an end, and hopefully a satisfying middle somewhere along the way. And just that nice, clear, defined setup does a lot for me, where open-ended games might not. And I've just realized that this entire conversation has been a massive lie. Isn't the obvious answer Soulsborne? I've just realized. Isn't that the other genre I like? This whole conversation could have been done so much quicker. That's what Talk Tuesday is, right? It's not about conversation. It's a relentless march through the questions. Relentless, mirthless, joyless. Get to the questions, finish line.
No, it's Talk Tuesday is more of like that stroll you take with that fantastic individual that you've been dying to have a conversation with, and you meander your way through the questions. You get lost in the conversation, and before you know it, the time has slipped past you. It's a hot iron pot.
It's gracious, hot iron pot. Hello.
Yes. Another up and coming new streamer. You know, everybody's showing up. So let's see. Next up, Miss B would also like to know when we're going to get a Smexy calendar.
I feel like I could have blended this in with the merch question, but I thought I had. The Smexy calendar.
You said you weren't going to sell hats or anything. You said nothing about, you know, the 12 months of calm-tasticness.
Oh, no,
12 solid months of, oh, baby.
Emphasis on solid, I'd imagine.
Rock hard.
We're past innuendo. We're at filth. We're just at filth. The calendar is going to need one key ingredient, because the sexy calendar wasn't me. The sexy calendar was a double act. It was myself and Love and Fury. So we're going to need Love and Fury on board. And that means I'm probably going to have to fly somewhere to make it happen. Lou, I wouldn't even know how to say that. January, baby. Actually, that works really well. February, baby. Okay, yeah, fair point. Yeah, that's not bad. True answer to the question of the sexy calendar. I'm going to need to get Love and Fury on board, and I'm going to have to come up with a theme for each month, because I think it can't just be the same thing over and over. We're going to need to put some real work in and make a product that we can be proud of.
Right.
Or it could just be a bunch of dick pics. It's one or the other. Even I look disappointed with myself.
I started saving. I don't think the crowd. But let's be fair though. B has a thing with calendars. She's already got the Tom Locke on calendar, right?
Really?
He was last week's guest star. Yep. So he's got a calendar thing that he's been doing. B is fascinated with calendar. I think she just wants to wallpaper her room with calendars and then be able to change from month to month and get a new sexy wallpaper.
Different sex position photo for every day of the year. Lady Teddy, I don't think I can get Gareth Bale in that quickly. There's going to be some long-term contract negotiations to make this happen. Not a bad idea, though. No, I would like to do this. So give me a little bit of time, and probably a little bit of support, emotionally and financially. I think I've also got to cut. I put on a few extra pounds, so if I do have abs, they're currently covered beneath a layer of unpleasant stomach fat. There's the motherfucker. There he is, Love and Fury. There we go. You don't have to buy the calendar. You're in it. You are Mr. December. Oh, God. Why December? If you've got a side complex, I've just made it a lot worse.
It's just fine. That's what we do around here. We take a perfectly reasonable, innocent idea and just corrupt the shit out of it.
Lady Teddy would be entirely reasonable. Could you hire a Gareth Bale lookalike? I guess I could, but I'll be honest, Lady Teddy. If I'm going to be, how can I word this delicately? If I'm going to be fucking someone for a calendar photo shoot, I want the real deal. And I cannot tell you how much I adore Gareth Bale. Actually, I probably could. But I'm not going to.
Again?
Again? Jesus. Hi, Fury. Good to see you.
Let's see. Saint Sunflower asks, when are you finishing Dredge?
I can imagine I know exactly when that question came up. Oddly enough, the real answer is never, isn't it? Oddly enough, my Steam, I want to say calendar now. It's not calendar. My Steam library.
Your Steam library. Yeah.
I divided it up into three things because at one point the backlog was just becoming ridiculous, and you begin to see that the backlog is never going to happen. So, I think there was a point where there was probably a series of Humble bundles were in there. There were games from like 2009 in there, 2010. And I went through and there were about 200, 300 games in there, which I think for a Steam library is quite rookie numbers. But if you think of that times amount of hours for the average game, out of your lifespan, it's still pretty big. So I found myself thinking, all right, let's go through and see what's going to happen. So my Steam library now is in 3 sections. There's Done, which is games that I genuinely finished with, I'm never going to go back to. There's Nope, which is the vast majority of these games. The vast majority, when you go through and you think, I'm clearly never going to play that. I'm not going to play. Goodness gracious, why can't I think of the name of a single video game at this point? I'm not going to play Prey.
That's what happens when you're under pressure?
Yeah. And it's a very high pressure environment. Questions coming thick and fast. Prey, I'm never going to play. So I mark it up under Nope, and it goes and it's minimized. I'm pretty intent with this. So this system holds. As soon as I know I'm not playing a game, it goes into the note folder. Dredge is not in the note folder yet. Dredge is still in the to play folder with not many other games. There's probably about 7 in there. So if I'm being pessimist realist, I'm not going to get it done. If I'm being optimist realist, it's somewhere near the top of the list. And I don't have a big long list of games I want to play right now. All I've got going right now, video game wise, is I'm going to play Rebirth again because I'm obsessed. I'm going to play Spider-Man 2. Yeah, this one is Spider-Man 2. I'm going to eventually play Baldur's Gate 3, but goodness gracious, that's going to take a while. And Dredge is probably next. But this does mean it'll be about 4 years.
I will be honest with you. I am still working my way through my first play of BG3. So
it's immense.
On Sundays we have a 4-man group that we do BG3s. We've been role playing the entirety of it. So
that's good.
When the characters die, we do this whole thing like it's a one time through. So TPK means if the entire party dies, then we're scrubbing the characters starting over again fresh. And so we come up with backstories, personality types, the whole 9 yards, and we're playing all the way through. We started this in October of last year, and like as of 2 weeks ago, we finally made it to Act 2.
That's my next question. Where are you now?
We're just on the other side of Act 2. We're just getting started. With this current group has had the most atrocious luck.
There's like 3, right? 3 acts?
As far I think so.
I suppose that's a spoiler question now I think about it.
I don't know. I think it's like 3 acts. So we haven't even hit the halfway point. Our current group has legitimately been burning bridges as we go. We're like, oh, sure, we'll help you. 2 seconds later, we have triggered some kind of massive fight that obliterates the entire village that we were there to save. Just...
You can imagine one member of the party really suspiciously saying, oh no, what could have happened? What could that have been again?
It's just it's been the way things have been going. We're here to save you. Look, we did a good thing. Hey, what does this button do? Triggers the apocalypse. There you go.
That is the most bizarre thing. I love that. It's so cute. I really wish I had a more sexually aggressive sound effect. I'm trying to think to where I got. So I believe I don't know how spoilerific I can be with it. It won't be very because I didn't get very far. But I'm in Act 1, and I think I guess I can say a word and it won't be a huge spoiler. I went Underdark. And I know that
we've been Underdark. We keep going Underdark. So there's nothing spoiler there.
I'm now at a point where if I click on a certain door, I can move on to Act 2. But I'm not the kind of person to replay a game unless it's Rebirth. I'm not the kind of person to replay a game, so I know I'm not going to go and do the above ground route to Act 2 on another playthrough. So I'm currently going back up to go and do the overground area to see what was there that I missed out on. But I reached that moment probably about 4 months ago, and I haven't played it since. I bet every attempt to go back. It is an incredible game.
It's a good game. We've been having a good time. I think honestly, what you should do is get a group together and do the co-op playthrough, like what we've been doing. I think you'll find your gameplay experience changes drastically, and not just play it like, okay, you make your choices, I make my choices and whatnot. Actually do the whole role playing behind it, like get wrapped up in your character and play it. It completely changes how you view that game and how things happen, because now you're invested so much more in how would I answer this question. Oh God, like I had a whole conversation with a wizard, and he was using flowery speech, and my guy's more of a fighter, so it like that was intellectually above his head, and he was like, dude, smaller words. Fuck's sakes, smaller words. And so, like, all the choices I was making were like, piss off, get bent. You flowery speak English, right?
imagine he feels like he has to do a lot of heavy lifting to make up for your lack of decorum. I mean, it might be you who keeps causing these gigantic village brawls.
No,
I
no. Honestly, I can say that the last one was not my fault.
Oh, that's such a narrow field. That's so good. Weirdly enough, the slight regret is that I was asked by a friend, like pretty much like day one when the game came out. It's one of my old friends from back home. And he asked, do I want to join? Like, it was him and one other person. So we're in a party of three. Do I want to do a full playthrough with them, first playthrough? And I said no, because I thought, I want to have the full experience to myself. And in hindsight, I don't regret it because it's been a great experience. But
Right.
maybe that would have been the right way to experience it. Because I can tell you one big difference between me and them. Those motherfuckers finished the game. Didn't get that far.
See, there may be something to this. I'm just saying.
I gotta drop him a WhatsApp at some point. I'm not going to. I'm clearly not.
Let's see. Miss B would like to know: did you ever complete Cupface?
The fuck is Cup? Oh God, yeah. Okay, I'm not that incompetent. I can leap that. Fucking, I can leap that intellectual chasm and make the link. Did I ever complete Cuphead? I did not complete Cuphead. Was Cuphead the last? No, it wasn't the last game I played on stream because I played Final Fantasy VII, the original. It was one of the very last games I played on stream. God, this must have been months ago though, 8-9 months. And I didn't get very far at all. Probably did about 7 bosses. But I think the game has sadly made its way into the note folder in my Steam library. So it hasn't been finished, and it will very likely remain unfinished, which is a shame because it is a very, very good game. It is one of the better games I've played in the last few years, oddly enough. But it's just one of those where I think it was almost the way that you described it earlier was I can see why people like this. I can see why I should probably like this more than I do, but it's not quite doing it for me. I respect the artwork. I'm sorry, the artistry behind the game. I respect the design. I respect everything about it.
Yep.
It just doesn't quite do it for me.
And that's sort of the thing, right? If a game doesn't fit, then it just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Trying to force it, it's just painful, and you'll actually come to hate the game more.
Yeah, and I think that's very much a game. And that's very much a game you could come to hate, due to the added challenge you have with the game as well. Beyond any other frustrations you might have with the way it's designed or the way it plays, it's a notoriously fucking hard game. So combine that, and it's a source of potential frustration.
Yeah, it can be. It absolutely can be. Let's see.
To go move it back to play folder. Oddly enough, I did have a good time.
Ms. B would also like to know: would you consider educational, historical podcast Twitch streams?
No. How do I say this? I think one of
straight and to the point.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking of a way that doesn't sound obnoxious as fuck. The internet is a wonderful place for the gaining and the sharing of knowledge. It's also a place full of people who know half of a subject talking about the whole goddamn thing. I don't know of many subjects on which I would be genuinely entitled to pontificate in any real informative way. I mean, yeah, I was a teacher, but you teach a relatively narrow subject in relatively narrow parameters. I would like anyone that I know is doing a historical podcast or an educational or scientific, whatever it might be, subject to be genuinely more accomplished than that within their field. And the genuine rifeness across YouTube in particular of half knowledge documentaries. I can't think of a good way to phrase that. Of uneducated documentaries, people who don't know the subject that well, still being willing to pontificate on it. I'm not a fan of that, and I wouldn't like to participate in doing it.
Right.
Although,
so That sounds like
If
I shouldn't be doing podcasts anymore because I am not an expert. We're gonna get it out. Thank you all for coming up, but
this may well be where the hostility between us comes to a head. Finally, after all this time.
It's all that tension
enough,
just building up for a release.
We thought it was sexual. It was actually just aggression. But I'm glad we did act on the sexual part of it. On the other hand, there was, when playing Dark Souls 3, there is the very, very beginning. Oh, actually, no, it's not the very, very beginning, but it's after the first boss. You end up in, it's not Lothric Castle, it's a castle. I can't remember the name. And it's incredibly well built in many ways by the standards of how you would have built a historical castle. There are some things that don't make sense because it's a gigantic fantasy world where the entire world is folding in upon itself. So in terms of the geographical layout of the thing, sometimes it can look a bit bizarre, and it has a law of reason too. But the individual architecture of parts of the castle, the way the staircases are built, the way that the gatehouses are built, the way that what's the English word? The way that the matriculations are built into the towers on the outside, the sort of death traps, the way those are built, it's done really well. So in the very, very beginning of that Dark Souls stream, at one point we essentially went through, cleared out the area of enemies, didn't go and rest at the bonfire to respawn them. I just went through and admired the handiwork of the castle's architects. Right. And that was probably the closest I'll ever come. I feel the one thing I could have a decent shot at is video game castles and video game towns, particularly if it's between sort of 1000 and 1600 AD, Western European, that kind of time. I could probably pontificate on that. There's just not that many games where it's worth doing. Dark Souls 3, though, that was a very, very well done castle. And I guess this means I probably have to play Kingdom Come Deliverance at some point, because apparently that is the creme de la creme. That's the bee's knees of genuine historical architecture in a game.
Right.
But that was that was the closest I've come to doing something like that.
There's nothing wrong with that. Since we're talking about architecture and whatnot, I don't know. Oh, hang on. We've got a raid coming in.
Frankie.
Oh, it is a G Frankie. Nice. We're going to get a shout out from Ms. G Frankie and the Raiders, and welcome in, Raiders. Ms. Frankie, another fantastic streamer who we had here on Talk Tuesday.
When was that? Is that a recent one?
That's one of her older clips.
Okay.
But she was doing Five Nights at Freddy's. Looks like she just died.
It's going to be okay.
It'll be fine.
That's very nice of Frankie to have come on in.
Yeah. She was here back in, I think, in February was when her Talk Tuesday came through.
It's interesting to think how long this series has been going on for now.
It's been going since October of last year. I think we did our very first Talk Tuesday on October of last year. It was me and Swifty Squirrel interviewing each other. She would ask me a question, I would ask her a question, and we just kind of bounced back and forth for about 3 hours. Then after that, we had Love and Fury was our next contestant on the Talk Tuesday.
Do you feel like there's sort of defined epochs, like defined series of Talk Tuesdays? Or do you feel it's just been one long ongoing series? There's nothing to divide certain periods from each other?
About the
if
biggest...
That question clear, ask me to...
No. I think the biggest differences between Talk Tuesday now versus Talk Tuesday back then, I think I've ironed out the format. So like the very first one, so October to the right before Christmas break, there was like 3 or 4 Talk Tuesdays, and I was definitely trying to feel my way into a format, so I would call those the proof of concept Talk Tuesdays, right?
Okay.
Then in January, like January's Talk Tuesdays, I would call those we've moved from proof of concept to the alpha states, the beta states. So that's when we started having we started getting some of the backdrop that you see in there. We were still doing a different game in the game screen, but towards the end of January, we moved to the puzzles, and a lot of the rest of this got fleshed out by the time we got into February. February actually is about the only thing that I would say is like the biggest notable change for Talk Tuesday. Was February was Valentine's Day, and we did a Sweethearts Month in February. So we brought in the ladies of the regime. So we had them all gathered together on the first Tuesday, and then every subsequent Tuesday after that for the entirety of February, we had one of them in here for Talk Tuesday. So it was a month long with the ladies of the regime during the Sweetheart Months. So that was fun.
That's the best. that would have been around when I discovered Hales then via you, wouldn't it? I think that was slightly sooner.
Hales was in January. So Hales was at a point where we had the Talk Tuesday logo and everything. But we weren't doing puzzles. I was still doing the little light robot puzzle in the background.
Was that the thing where you had to wrap the rope around? Yes.
Yep. Yeah, we tried a thing. We tried a thing, I want to say about 2 months back on a Saturday where we were doing Mod Love Saturdays. Miss Skywalker actually was our interviewee for Mod Love Saturdays. And so we sat down with her for... Basically, it was the same format as the Talk Tuesday, but it was more for like a lot of people have moderators for their streams, right? And we do things like, hey, here's a we love our mod button, yay, cheers, whatnot. But the mods do an awful lot of work to make a stream work, right? Especially the mods that are there solely to moderate the channel, and they don't stream on their own. So as a way to give recognition, I started up a Mod Love series and kind of put it out there as like, hey, if you got a moderator you want to show some support for, whether they stream or not, you want to just talk about them, the moderator duties they do, and what an amazing person they are. That's what that was for. Miss Skywalker was our inaugural Mod Love, but I haven't had anybody pick up to do any more of that one. So we only had just the one episode of that.
I suppose it's a harder thing to organize. You need to get many more people involved, and you're also gonna have people like me, so my mods, for example, Lou, who's in the chat now, she's a mod. My mods are fucking awful. Just absolutely. I am surprised some of them are even allowed outside at this point. No, I would imagine, honestly, it is probably... Well, there you go, she confirmed it. Also, hi, Urkamus, who popped in, by the way. I absolutely adore Urkamus, and he's just dropped in, so that's really great.
Yes. Yeah, he's got a question on the list, too. We've got a bunch of questions on the list, but we've been, to use your word, pontificating.
That's a $20 word, right? That's a $20 word. Sammy, it's so good to see you. I haven't seen you for a while, mate.
Welcome in.
Sorry, all I was going to add was just that one tiny note. Yeah, for any mod meetings that you would have, you do have that extra people now who all have to be available at the same time, all able to dedicate their time. And you may well find that the mods aren't quite as comfortable, depending on what their background is, necessarily speaking on camera or just with audio as well.
That's right.
It's a hard thing. So
it is a hard thing. So it's one of those I haven't taken down. I don't like blatantly advertise about doing it constantly, but it's one of those, like, it's a thing. I had no issues. It was a lot of fun. Miss Jem was a lovely guest. She's also taken up to streaming now, so maybe we can twist her arm into her own Talk Tuesday.
Twisty.
But
I'll work on Lou. You work on them.
But so like it's been a fun series. It's been running for. Here you go.
It's so disconcerting when that pings. It's absolutely bizarre.
It's one of those. This has been a fun series, right? It's definitely been the longest running series that I've had. Like between games and whatnot, like this has been the most popular thing on this channel that we do is Talk Tuesdays. This is what people show up for. Which is fine.
Honestly, it's been a thing that I've been able to show up for, especially when you have someone who's maybe European, British, wherever it might be, and that time zone lines up a bit nicely. It's one of the things where I've been able to drop in and see you a bit more often as well.
Yep.
So consider me both a fan and a participant.
Yeah.
Also, thank you very much, Bombs Away.
But I tell everybody, like, Talk Tuesdays are my favorite thing for the week because I get to just sit here and just chat with somebody. Like, that's my favorite thing about this is we're just going to sit here and have an open conversation. I'm going to ask you whatever question pops into my head. I'm going to ask you whatever question pops into our lovely viewers' heads, and we're just going to have a wonderful conversation. And I get the benefit of having you all to my dedicated little self with you yakking so sensuously in my ears. It's fantastic, right?
Took the words right out of my
but yeah, no, it's been fun so far. We are definitely. It's interesting. It feels almost like we're coming to the end of it, just because I haven't had any new sign-upies. So I think we're all the way up to like the first Tuesday in July, and then that's it. Like, I have no more guests after that.
Sign up, y'all. If you haven't been here before, sign up. Doesn't cost anything.
All right. We do have some questions on. I think people may have lost the fact that they've been asked a few times. So
Sure.
Let's get a couple of these taken care of real quick, and then we'll pontificate some more.
It's clearly all we're
Miss Cadiest Odin, though that is how you say their name. If you listen to me and Zoda, we will call them Cat Ties Tudin. It's so much fun. Would like to know, has anyone in the community inspired you as a streamer?
Clearly not the person who just dropped in and said, wow, we let clowns in on Talk Tuesdays now. Fuck you, Sniff. Also, I love you.
We had Sniff already on a Talk Tuesday.
You did, didn't you? I forgot about that.
I was
there. I was in the room.
You were.
I was in the room. Jeez, man.
You were giving him the stink eye the entire time.
Was sitting there drinking his root beer. Real power move. So was it which streamer has inspired, or in what way has a streamer inspired? Sorry.
She says, has anyone in the community inspired you as a streamer?
So the obvious jokey answer is that so many of you have inspired me never to come back again. But the true and genuine answer would be, I will never fucking live up to saying this. Momus.
I knew it. Quick, somebody clip that.
The streamer who, yes, I'm going to take the question in that way, if that's quite all right. The streamer who inspired me the most was probably Momus. So that would be a Momus of your time, if you've seen that name around. Who used to be a regular full-time streamer based in the UK. And it was a streamer for whom I could get to their stream almost every day. And we met when I was streaming Monster Hunter World. And by coincidence, he had the same sort of attitude as me. It wasn't really a networking perspective, but it was more in just, when you get to the end of your stream, if you've got 5 viewers, 6 viewers, go and raid someone who's got 3. Go and raid someone who's got 4, because you're probably really going to make their fucking day. More than anything else, you're really going to make their day. And we had quite a similar perspective. And I think I had about 3 people in. He came in with about 6 or 7. And it really did make my day. But the difference that he made was we're a similar age. We look similar. He looks a bit more like a fucking pigeon. But in principle, we look very similar. Similar attitudes, very similar people. Again, don't fucking tell him this. If anyone's clipping this, there will be violence.
His headphones are bigger.
I think he made me realize that there was another world of streamers outside of the sort of 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds who would be streaming as well. Because that was mainly what I'd seen. It was people quite a lot younger than me. It was people quite a lot more, what's the word? Animated. So you'd have a lot of, and I'm not going to say forced, because I don't know these people, but very, very bombastic actions, the shouting, the screaming, the diving around, the shaking the hands, flipping the hair, all that shit. Because I was mainly getting front page Twitch at the time. I didn't know people. Energetic. Thank you, Samuel.
I like the word bombastic. I think that's a very good descriptor of it's you show up in their stream and what they do, they just kind of, it's like an explosion going off, and they bounce all over the place, and you're like, okay, I appreciate the energy, scale that back a little, bud.
Like, yeah, it's just not my thing. It's not your thing. It's not my thing. And he was the first person who really that I saw regularly streaming with a viewership that was non-negligible. And I don't mean that as a critique against anyone, but just quite literally stating the fact, who looked like me, streamed like me, was of roughly my age, and made me realize, oh, you could probably keep on doing this. Because up until then, there were points when I didn't really feel like going on. That is an incredibly dramatic way to phrase it. He really dragged me through the trenches. My legs were shot up, Lieutenant Dan. So yeah, the streamer who most inspired me was probably Momus. The streamer who inspired me to have the most erections was probably Paul, but obviously that's a different story entirely.
I don't think that was asked, but thanks for the volunteer.
Oh, sorry, you hear what you want to hear.
It's fine. That's the fun thing about Talk Tuesdays. You just sit around and we laugh. I think more than anything else, Talk Tuesdays are just it's a good laugh track. It's a good time.
I'll be honest. I'm having a great time, but I am the biggest fan of my own jokes.
So, Miss Lady Teddy would like to know, what about Final Fantasy has you constantly coming back for more?
First video game I played that I really remember playing. So it's got the nostalgia credit. So when I was really small, 3-4 years old, this was back in 1850. Yeah, I know. When I was really small, my brother had...
I thought the 1700s. 1850, but you still a young buck.
We get each other. When I was a little kid, like my brother, he had a ZX. Was it a Spectrum? I think that was the UK console, ZX Spectrum. So I played some games with him on that. I think there might have been a Game Boy at some point. There might have been a Sega Mega Drive, Genesis, all audiences accepted. And I remember individually moments of playing games and playing wrestling games or playing a bit of Lion King or whatever it might have been. But the first game that I remember playing, and it really calling to me, was Final Fantasy VII. And then there is a cliche with Final Fantasy games that the first one you play is the one that you typically have as your favorite.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, the first one I played was 7. I was about 10 years old when it came out in Europe. And I remember the very opening scene. You see Aerith, who I called Aerith at the time and still do. You see her in the light of this green Mako
reactor
power source, which is leaking. Yeah, and you see her there, and it looks very cinematic. I thought, that's interesting, because I don't remember games doing that. And the camera pulls out above the city, and you get the title card. It zooms back in. You see the train pulling into the station, and all of a sudden this character leaps off the train, and you're controlling the character already, and there's been no cut. It's just gone straight from this cutscene to you taking the character. And that blew me away at like 10 years old. Blew me away. and then you went on a story with characters who were genuinely interesting. And this wasn't the only game doing this kind of thing at the time. I think Metal Gear Solid came out around this time as well. And if you're going to say thereabouts?
Thereabouts. It was fairly
So you're going to
close.
say a game sort of that were looking cinematic at the time, not much is going to beat that. So there were others, but that was the first one I played where it had that really, truly cinematic feel. And it felt like a well-developed story all the way through from start to finish with a cast of characters. And that has always appealed to me. And the pure nostalgia that gets in me just when I see the title card for Final Fantasy will always make me want to play a new Final Fantasy that comes out. And if you know there's that beautiful, it's a major 7th ascending arpeggio that plays at the start before every Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
That little loop, as soon as I hear it, just like the skin is like goose pimpling, just like pure chicken skin. And any one of those games, then I want to play. So the reason that I love Final Fantasy is a reason that no other game will ever match, and it's nostalgia.
That's honestly that's a hard one, I think, for any game company to get over is those nostalgia. Like I feel like some of the newer games coming out, they're trying to make their own nostalgia esque sort of capture,
Mhm.
to make those lifelong. The artwork, the honestly, those games were really ahead of their time, until you looked at some of like the really earlier versions that were like the original Final Fantasy on the NES and whatnot. That
Yes.
and then you're like, oh, this is not even the same animal. Still fun to play, but
I can actually add, just as you were mentioning, sorry, as you were saying that, I realized another reason that I do love the Final Fantasy as a series, and it's the fact that you cannot accuse them of resting on their laurels. They always try something new, and it doesn't always
yes,
work. But if you think of the materia system in 7, if you think of the in 8, the junctioning and drawing system, which was fucking weird, and I think I understand it now, but I'm still not sure. If you think of 13 and its more automated combat, if you think of 15 and that road trip vibe, they will always try something.
yeah.
And a studio that is willing to do that, because they could very easily make the same game over and over again every few years. Looking at you, Dragon Quest, they could do that, but they choose not to,
Yeah,
and I can respect that. I do also love Dragon Quest.
there's Dragon Quest is not bad. Um, See, for me, I have and will probably always be a Blue Bomber fan.
Yeah,
That was my game. In
and
fact, I
that's got
was.
a nostalgia component.
It's a little hard for me to claim it for much of a nostalgic, other than the fact that I really enjoyed the play, the way they stood it up. Like Mega Man 2 was the first one that you actually saw on the old NES that had 8-way directional fire. Leaps ahead. Nobody else had done that, right? Legends of
Didn't
Dragoon
know
all the
that.
way. Ellignor, you're not wrong. That's not a bad game either. Um, but yeah,
That's one of those deep cuts.
I enjoyed I enjoyed the entire Mega Man series, Rockman, if you're from the other side of the ocean. Um, well, that's what.
I like how we're being
So
very open-minded for the world.
well, I had to. So I started in the on the American version of Mega Man. At some point, I got my hands on a PAL and converted over and was playing on my old computer, Rockman. So like I was actually playing the Japanese version of Mega Man back in the day, especially when I got into speedrunning. So I got into speedrunning that series, trying to compete with the boys. And this decades ago. This is a while ago. I don't do it anymore.
Still.
I can't keep up. But yeah, it was fun. I think I got into the top 100s at one point, and then I just kind of walked away from it. But yeah, it was still a good time. Like that was my game of choice. I really enjoyed that. Followed really closely by the Zelda series. So Legend of Zelda: Adventures of Link. I remember playing those ones, especially when they first showed up on the NES, just because of. Now that's an adventure game that felt like you knew ultimately you had to go kill Ganon. That's it. The end of the story is go kill the bad guy. How you got there is entirely up to you. And it was so much fun that you could try doing things the hard way. I'm going to go kill Ganon, but you have to get all the different pieces. But I'm going to work backwards. I'm going to go to the hardest place first. Well, to get to the hardest place, you have to do X, Y, and Z. But hey, that's not a problem. The game doesn't stop you from doing it. You just go do it. And it was fun. And a lot of the Zelda-esque sort of games are built on that same. So that one, Nintendo did the same thing over and over again. Like they just redid that same formula over and over again. But it was such a good formula. It worked. And it works for that series.
And that's very easily a counter argument you can make, isn't it? Is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If
Yeah.
people already love this and you still have places to go with it, if we're not tired of it,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing wrong with maintaining a formula. Again, Dragon Quest, for all of the simple shade you can throw at it, I really enjoyed the series. I think it's incredibly well done.
Yep.
And though they don't change so much, they do refine, and they
Yeah,
do
yeah.
um, they modernize, and they make the games a bit easier to. Sorry, they make the games more adaptable to the modern day. Yakuza, same thing. I very
Yep.
much like Yakuza, but it's hard to argue there's much variety across those games, except for within the actual narrative. Um, but no, I really didn't know that about you and the speed running background. That is pretty cool.
I would not be the only speedrunner in this here community. Cerberus is also a speedrunner.
Cerberus, you dark horse. I love it.
But you know, it's you learn interesting things about fantastic people, and it's always kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's I can see Final Fantasy. It's definitely a nostalgia grab for I think a lot of people. I played the first one. I sank. I would say easily a couple thousand hours into the first game on my NES. I put so much time into that first game of Final Fantasy on my NES that I broke the cartridge, had to get a replacement one for it.
I have owned Final Fantasy VII 5 times. 5. Look at you, 5. And I think that's, you've kind of hit something there which, at risk of sounding a bit old man yells at cloud, nice little pun there, by the way. If you're thinking about how we used to play games, you were probably like me in that you would maybe from your parents get one game every few months, maybe. So when you got a game, you're kind of stuck with that one, and you would milk it for all it was worth.
Oh, you had to.
When, yeah, Final Fantasy VII got, I mean, there were, I couldn't tell you how many times I played it, like back and forth, like when it came out. The amount of time I spent trying to breed the special chocobos, the amount of times I spent walking around the same areas I'd been to dozens of times before just to hear the music again, or maybe just to hope that maybe a character had some different dialogue this time, wherever it might be. That
something for that extra bit of content.
Yeah, anything you get, like pour into the game manual for anything that you hadn't seen before.
Right.
That's one of those odd and unusual things about a differencing that we will have fundamentally, us and a generation that follows us, is that idea of just having that one game available to you, and that was all. When you think of how easy it is now to find a game for free, or a game for a few euros or dollars, or a game in a bundle, whatever it might be. They'll never know the hard times, man. They'll never know.
Well, okay, in difference to I mean, we're going to start doing old man here, right? Before there was an NES, there was me on my Commodore, and there was no games. If I wanted a video game, I had to read what everybody else was playing and then figure out how to build it myself on my Commodore. So my first couple of video games I ever played, I wrote myself by hand on the back end of this old ancient computer, which if you hit the power button and turned it off, then everything was gone. I had to start over again from scratch.
I believe this is what my brother did. I think this is why I think it was the Spectrum, because I think the BBC in the UK did a magazine, and you would have within that magazine the code for a game, and you'd have to just write that fucking code out into your machine to play it.
Yep.
And I'm sure I can remember him doing that. And that is such an odd thought, a real jump back in time for how utterly bizarre that is, and yet how utterly normal that was at the time.
It was perfectly normal for us, but you stop and realize just exactly how far, like, the gaming industry, and you're absolutely right, Eleanor. The rush to get to the game store to get the
guide.
to get your issue of Nintendo Power.
Oh, no, you had to get the Final Fantasy VII official guide.
Yeah.
I can remember Broken Sword 1, a game I loved. The first time I played it was reading an entire walkthrough in a magazine. It came with loads of screenshots all the way through, and the walkthrough explained a bit of the story on the way. I just read the whole thing as a narrative, and then eventually played the game like 5 years later. That's big fucking nerd right there.
Old school days. That's a return to an older time.
Can we start complaining now that phones don't have rotary dials anymore as well? Would that be okay?
I'd be honest with you. I lament the fact that my manual dexterity is not the way it used to be. Right. I would love to play some of these newer games and play them at the level that I used to play games like Unreal Tournament.
I was just going to say Unreal Tournament.
I did Unreal Tournament professional or competition. So we were part of the old, if you remember the old BBS board competitions where you would get together and play against each other on big LAN parties, and you would have to travel and show up. And so I was in a top 5 team for Unreal Tournament doing competition. Like that was fast and furious and gameplay really twitchy. You had to do all the same sort of stuff that you do nowadays. We were already doing. And I was actually pretty decent at it. Nowadays, you watch me play an FPS and you're like, ha, grandpa. I'm like, you just don't know.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how old he is now. I think 10. My nephew whoops my ass at Fortnite. And, like my brother will say, like, you don't have to let him win. I'm fucking not. I'm not. The reflexes are gone. Like, they're shot. You put
it's
me out
just not a thing. I'm done. Yeah. Piss off, you wankers.
I can't compete in that division anymore.
It sucks. That's what I lament. I would love to. I have found that I still do FPSs, but I tend to favor the shotgun more. It's a bit slower weapon, but when it kicks, it definitely will knock somebody's teeth in. There's a clip on the channel. I was playing Fortnite. I was hunkered down in a building. I had a shotgun in my hand. Somebody opened a door and I literally took their head off, closed the doors, and did this for like 7 or 8 people. They just kind of kept opening the door, and I'm like, wrong door, buddy.
They were expecting a very different kind of gamer. Someone running around, doing the building, setting up the towers. Nope. Yep. You lurking in a corner.
I'm hiding behind this door, and you opened the wrong door.
Old-fashioned gaming.
It works, right? Let's see. What do we? Blue Balls is like, no. Are you still going to grow the mullet?
Yes.
That was apparently that was the only acceptable answer for as far as they were concerned.
Yeah. So with haircuts and style, weirdly enough, hair and hairstyling has always been a thing that I've really liked. You can't fucking tell right now, obviously.
I remember when you went bald there for a little while. People were having a riot in your channel.
How dare he? That's kind of where I've always stood is, to some degree, because my father went bald when he was like 17, and I'm more than double that age now. I think with hair, it grows back. Ultimately, that's the principle behind it. It grows back. So why not? While you've got it, try and do different things. Try and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the big, famous hairstyles that I've never had is a mullet. I've never had one, and I've done a whole bunch. I've had fucking pigtails at one point, so I thought that'd be fun. But I've never had a mullet. So the next plan, haircut-wise, is just a full, old-fashioned Southern mullet.
Hercules, thank you for the follow. So as a gentleman who has had a mullet, I can tell you they're not worth the trouble.
I'm gonna make sure I'm not single by the time that I get
it. The whole strategy of business in the front and party in the back just doesn't work.
I can tell you what's done it for me is, I don't know if it's anything you will ever have looked at, because it's probably not culturally a thing you would have looked at, but there's a whole generation of like rugby players from the 1970s, 1980s, and that was kind of their look. It was like the headband, the mullet, the mustache, normally a bit of a beer belly. That I just want to try that once. I just want to try that once.
Lady Teddy, no, actually, well, Calm can see, but if you ever meet me in real life, right now I I sport mountain man look. Is probably the most appropriate way to put that. I have a beard, which I've been, playing with it. But I also have like long hair, like my hair is down halfway down my back. So like completely West Virginia mountain man sort of look. I keep talking about I need to go get this cleaned up and whatnot, but yeah, I mean it's.
I know one else can see it. I think it looks pretty good.
But
it's a style.
It is a style. It's and it's one I keep going back.
There is a. I think we mentioned this actually before the stream. There is. So for myself, all the while that I was away, I was just letting my beard grow because it was too much of a pain in the backside to shave it when I was normally, preferring to get out and about and see the world. And I shaved my beard off about 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago. And every time, it's a surprisingly emotional moment when you have a bit of facial hair built up and you actually take it off. There's a real, for me at least, there's a real moment of transition that you feel taking place. And it feels like a much more epochal moment than it's probably supposed to be.
It is very much so. And we were talking about this earlier too, as we were doing all like the sound tests and everything else. It's very much one of those, you don't recognize the man who's looking back at you in the mirror after you take it off. Like even you have that momentary of, oh, who the fuck are you?
Why am I 6 years old again? Do I still have pubes? I'm just going to check. It's a bizarre thing. You genuinely have that feeling of seeing an entirely different person. It's even more dramatic, I would say, than the spectacles. Taking and removing your glasses, like that's a different person when you do that. But I think
you take your glasses off. I would say, I would say anytime that you do a big hairstyle shift, whether it's long hair to short hair, whether it's no straight hair to curl hairs, you perm it, you bob it, you stick it up in spikes on top of your head. If you like the hair, I think is the most noticeable thing that we as people can do and change to really adjust our outward appearance and how people view us. And so anytime you make a change like that, I keep playing with my beard. You've been watching me play with my freaking beard.
That's why I've gone so quiet. I barely get the words out.
But I've actually been trying. I've been trying a new beard butter. It's a lot softer now.
Oh, very nice.
So
because the last time you did scratch me a little bit.
You liked it.
I didn't say it.
Miss Blue Balls would also like to know, what is your current favorite song and why?
Big question.
Huge question. Monumental.
Yeah. I don't tend to have a favorite song at any one time. I'm trying to think. Okay, no, I think I do have an answer. This is not the answer, but I can tell you, weirdly enough, the song that's on loop the most, the one that I keep listening to in the last few days is, and this is not my favorite, I love it, is No Vaseline by Ice Cube, which is one of the, if anyone doesn't know it, it is fucking amazing. It is probably the single most, I do not have the fucking voice for this. It is the single most concise diss track you will ever hear in your fucking life. So if you don't know hip hop that well and you sort of want to weigh in, No Vaseline by Ice Cube. Orson Welles knows. I couldn't recommend it more. It's incredible. Just all the way through. It's just line after line after line of real pain. I haven't heard the Kendrick Lamar stuff, but I'd imagine it makes that look a little bit Blue's Clues. My actual favorite song at the moment, and it's probably my favorite song a lot of the time, and I like it because it doesn't really have the trappings of being a traditional song. It does have a verse structure. It doesn't really have a chorus. It's the Bruce Springsteen song Meeting Across the River, which I think is track 7 on Born to Run, and it's just a song that's more of a narrative than anything else. And what
Right.
I like about it is I think it does the best job of making an atmosphere of any song I've ever heard in my life. Essentially, meeting across the river, you have someone from New Jersey who's going to go into New York to do some sort of illicit deal. Um, they they've taken things from like their girlfriend's home. They're going to go sell them, get some money. They're going to get some cash. But the entire song, the way you're listening to it, the way it's recorded, the saxophone that's playing behind in the distance, it sounds like someone strolling through New York. As odd as that sounds, it's really an atmosphere more than it is a song. So my favorite song at the moment is "Meeting Across the River" by Bruce Springsteen, and that's probably going to be the answer on 8 days out of 10 in my life. Like that will almost always that's one of the songs that always comes back.
Yeah.
That I love.
Who was that one? Anthony's Song by Billy Joel. Same sort of thing. Or Piano Man by Billy Joel. Also, same sort of. I really like Piano Man just because he really sells that pub piano guy atmosphere. The old bluesy sort of. I really like that vibe. Such a good.
Oh, he paints a picture all the way through.
Oh, yes, gorgeous.
I remember a couple of years ago that I'd never really listened to Billy Joel at any point. I remember a few years ago, probably 2, 3 years back, it was probably during COVID. At one point, I thought, I want to actually get to know who Billy Joel actually is, because I've known the name and I know he's very respected. So I'm going to sit down and I'm going to find out. And I selected on Spotify, "This is Billy Joel." Track one, let's go. And I remember song after song. I just remember listening, like track one. Wait, that's him? Next song. Wait, that's him? Next song. He did that one too? And it was just a long list of incredible songs where I just had no idea ever it was him. But I was very, very familiar with the songs. And I just couldn't believe like how different some of them were from each other. Such an incredibly talented musician.
Oh yeah. Well, like there's a couple of them that are along that same vein that are just they're fun to listen to. They all have a story. They're telling a story about a song, and to me that's what. Like I took up playing the guitar, but I took up playing the guitar because I wanted it as a form to tell a story, right? I can use music. I can tell a story with music. I can write lyrics and make witty remarks and whatnot. But ultimately, I can tell a story, and this is a good outlet. And so I thought that was fantastic. And so I got involved in. I learned how to play guitar, and yeah, I didn't get very far with it. But I listened to people like Paul Simon. Absolutely fantastic, right? Billy Joel, another huge favorite of mine. Like there were songs. Weird Al, huge. Oh God, yeah. I don't know of a single Weird Al song that I didn't like. But at the same time I got into Weird Al, I was also doing Dr. Demento at that time, and like all of that. Such, like,
Weird Al very specifically was much more talented than he had any need to be. And much more talented than I expected him to be. The more going in, actually listening to the repertoire, but beyond just one or two songs, there's some true talent there. He's incredible.
He does a good job at the wordplay.
Yeah,
like he does a solid job at mixing the right songs to the right words to really elicit that same feeling.
Yeah. And that's just something that is very unique. People have done parody, and parody has been around for as long as art has been around for.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Since the first piece of art, someone drew a dick on it. Ultimately. And he has done it about as well as anyone I could think of. And to have that longevity that he had, or that he has had, sorry.
Yeah.
While essentially being perceived as a novelty artist, that is incredibly rare. Incredibly rare. Probably unique just to him.
About 10 years ago, maybe longer than that now, it's probably been 15 years, one of my best friends passed away. And the only tangent to this, the only reason to bring him up is not to elicit, oh, we're sorry you lost your best friend 10, 15 years ago. No, he regularly was mistaken for Weird Al. We would go to the bars and people would come up and get his autograph. So he literally, he would sign shit, fuck you, Weird Al.
Oh, it's so good. But that's using a gift that you've been given in a good way.
Oh.
That's really good.
But yeah, he absolutely looked like, oh yeah, it was fantastic. It was so much fun. Yeah, and then the more drunk people got, the more they were like, I got Weird Al's signature. And we're like, okay. Rock on, dude.
Enough popular pressure. You could have got into the VIP areas in those clubs, man.
Yeah, maybe, but you still had to get carded, so it looks kind of funny when your ID card does not.
Tragic
But we had fun.
Name.
Yeah, there you go. we still had lots of fun. But yeah, it was a regular thing for him. He used to get so frustrated over it, and we used to torment him about like, I don't know why you're getting frustrated about it. Just sign the thing. It's fine. Sign it. They're too drunk to know who's signing it anyway. So just do him a favor. Sign his little shirt. Like whatever you put on there, he's not. Whatever you sign it for, he's not going to even remember it.
Yeah. Sign it. Don't let them take a photo. Just don't let them take the photo. The photo is gonna ruin the memory.
No.
But if they've just got that one signed piece.
No. If you go back to like early Weird Al, that's my buddy. That's exactly what he looks like, from the curly hair, the whole 9 yards. Absolutely. He absolutely could have been a body double for him. Yep. Not even. Yeah, it was fantastic. He said he would get mistaken all the time, but yeah, it was.
I want to find my celebrity doppelganger. I want to know whose night I can make.
You never know. Lady Teddy would like to know, what is the secret to your fantastic charisma? I get to have fun reading these questions out. Yeah.
I think the arrogant thing to say, which is normally the real answer that I give, is Lady Teddy. It's called chemistry, and I have it with everyone. But the real answer is, what do you expect me to offer? Really? What can I say as a response to that doesn't make me sound like an absolute jack-off? So
maybe that's the intention here.
Any goodwill that I might have built up at any point over this is gonna be gone. Those 4 little pings, those new follower pings, they'll be fucking. They'll be disappearing very quickly.
We're out.
I have fewer than when I started. Yeah, Lady Teddy's gone as well.
There they go.
So, that's probably where, in the interest of, I don't know if open disclosure is the right word, Lady Teddy and Urkamus, the name you saw earlier, we have a group text together, and it's mainly an entire smorgasbord, an array, a collection of just absolute premium grade A memes and shit talking. That's it. And I think it's leaking over. There's so much shit talking. It's spilling over and finding its way over into this. And Lady Teddy, I couldn't love you more for it. Thank you.
But why wouldn't you want that though? Right? If you're having a good time and you're laughing at it, why not laugh at it no matter where you're at?
Goddamn right. Oh, and as she's rightly pointed out, it's also full of thirst. Yeah, that's true.
Well, okay. Let's face facts, Com. Anytime it's you standing around bare-chested, I have seen... Okay, I can go on record because I can. I have seen this man in Speedos.
I am European, and I'm European if I want to.
I have seen this man in a set of Speedos, and let me tell you what, a whiter pair of legs you have never seen before.
Oh, I'm pretty sure my legs could be as energy. It is incredible. I'm looking at them right now. Yeah, it is absolutely shameful. I don't know what it is with my legs. Though. I don't know what it is. I have given them sun. I wear speedos in public. You know, I go swimming outside public baths. I have the whitest legs known to man. Nevertheless, I can't
you
help
haven't
it.
seen mine, good sir. So,
and I do know that Lady Teddy can give us a run for our money there as well. There's a few of us. But there are dozens of us. I think it was a kind of slept-on comment, by the way, but Orson Welles, in response to the last conversation, said that if they were your friend, they would have worn Weird Al t-shirts everywhere to debate people into thinking they're him. I kind of like that. Kind of like that idea. Lean into it. Make someone's day. Make
we tried convincing him to do that just because it's just fantastic, but no, he never really took to that as well as one would think you could, and if you were in that situation, right?
I would imagine at some point it gets tiresome. It's probably a very generous way to think about it.
So white, immune to the sun.
You'll leave my legs alone. I'm going to choose to ignore all of that, except for Paul calling them tree trunks. Except for Love and Fury, sorry, calling them tree trunks. Except for that. No, that's instant doxing, isn't it? I'm taking nothing except for that one set of words. Tree trunks. Fucking bird trees. Oh my gosh.
Lady Teddy also would like to know what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Oh, yeah, clearly. Egg is such a general term for any, for any egg, whereas the chicken is, I presume, the very specific modern creature that's evolved from whatever came before it. The egg, by definition, has to have come first.
There you go.
I'm sorry, I gave a more fun answer.
Well, no, because so let's be fair about it, right? That's a very technical answer, and I love a very technical answer to questions like that because if for nothing more, they're infuriating to the person who asked the question to begin with, right? You're expecting a whimsical answer, and no, I'm just going to gig you on the fact that, well, by definition, the egg obviously came first because the egg has never changed. Dinosaurs laid eggs, rabbits lay eggs, frogs laid eggs, things under the water have laid eggs, and the egg has obviously been before the chicken.
I feel like I would like to say at this point that we're pissing on Lady Teddy's bonfire, but there's clearly no bonfire left to piss on because we keep pissing on it. I did love and Furies there. Well, there you go. Oh, I like that. I like more eggs for breakfast and chicken for lunch or dinner. Breakfast comes first, therefore the egg came before the chicken. Now we've taken slightly different paths to get there, but we did hit the same answer. I can't even think of like a single whimsical thing now. Not a single one. How sad is that? All I can think of is pure seriousness.
See, and
my dick jokes.
My initial response to that was, "Joke's on you." The egg obviously came first.
Oh, jeez Louise. Release me.
Let's see. Bombs Away, who was another of our Talk Tuesday special guests from a couple weeks ago, asks, who is your favorite character in any Souls game?
Okay. For the pure and utter mania that they end up in, for how different they end up from where they began over a very, very short storyline, for their maniacal speech. I can't remember if his name in Bloodborne is Albert or Alfred. I can't remember. But whichever one of those names is the correct one, him. Because to see a man descend from, well, I mean, he always was what he was, from this righteous, noble knight to what he becomes and how incredibly insane he sounds by the end. It's a side quest character, it's nothing big. That is one of my favorite moments of video game, is realizing that through helping him, I'm not going to say if helping him is good or bad, because it's pretty grey, like all Soulsborne stuff is.
Yeah.
But you do wonder what kind of person you just lent aid to, even if it was for the right reason. So yeah, whatever his name is, whether it be Albert or Alfred, and if not, Love and Fury's off. Love and Fury, be good. See you soon. If not, then probably from Elden Ring, either, I think it's the same character, Margit or Morgott, who I always thought was just an incredibly tragic character. And they've also managed to worm their way into my everyday life. There's a very dramatic line of dialogue that they use, and I like to use it in my personal life now, for anything that lets me down. So the line that they say to you, the player character, is, "Thy part in this shall not be forgiven." And I like to do this now to anything in my life that doesn't work. So, like a shelf falls down, foul shelf, thy part in this shall not be forgiven. The kettle's a bit too slow to boil, foul kettle. Same thing. And I can remember just one time an ex of mine, I was in the bathroom, she was walking past, and I remember just her saying, "You're doing it again." So apparently what I was doing was declaring my vitriol at the toothpaste. The two things that I do in the mirror. No, three things I do in the mirror is, first of all, 6 inches from it, I yell things at myself that I would never yell at you. I quote lines from Dark Souls and/or Elden Ring and/or Bloodborne. And the third thing I do is cut wrestling promos in the mirror to myself. That's what my bathroom time is made up with. But yeah, so Margit / Morgott.
I had to give up the wrestling poses some time ago. But I was not immune to the wrestling poses when I was younger.
You can catch me in there doing the occasional Macho Man impression. On which note, if it will come through, I don't know, but I am wearing a Macho Man Randy Savage t-shirt.
Savage.
Yeah, you can probably just see him there in this Macho Man. But yeah, so for the short answer, Margit and Morgott from Elden Ring, and then from the Soulsborne catalog elsewise, Alfred / Albert, the name I can't remember. And Bombs Away, I think that might be right. Yeah, I can't really remember. It's been a few years since I played Elden Ring. Did you play Elden Ring, by the way, Nori?
Yeah,
of course you have. Played with Wars.
I'm doing a seamless co-op with Wars, Zoda, the Captain Cabinets, and myself on Friday evenings. The funny thing is it's a seamless co-op. The world is open, right? So we have an open password. We're like, yeah, you want to come play? Sure. Just make certain that you've done a few basic things and understand that you're probably, unless you level up your character, I think we're all roughly about level 50 now. You're probably going to be facing off things that are going to one-tap you.
Of course. Yeah.
So, if you do a little bit of preemptory work, it's not too bad. You're welcome to come jump in. Anybody's welcome to come jump in. Again, it's an open world seamless co-op. We make the password publicly available. So
that mod is a very impressive thing. I mean,
it is extremely impressive what they've done with that mod. Right. And I'm a little sad because I think that mod's probably going to break when they release the DLC.
It's a big fucking change.
Which is unfortunate. I would like for it not to break when they release it, just because then I think it would be fun. But it means that our Friday night funds may come to a resounding halt temporarily until they release the update for it.
We'll see. Shit, what was the word I was looking for?
I don't know.
Is the mod in active maintenance, or have the team abandoned it by now?
No, it's still actively being maintained.
Okay, so there might just be a transition time while they.
It may be down for. Lady Teddy, thank you for the follow. Yeah, it may just be a
Yay.
transitional thing. And so it may be down for a short period while they're updating, right?
Fingers crossed, not too long.
Yeah. And so that's the hope. But I mean, other than that, no, it's brilliantly good fun. It is ridiculously hard. Like, okay, I load the world up and I start in, and we'll just say my health bar is like 2 inches on the screen, right? When you go into, open the world up, I can literally watch that 2-inch health bar shrink every time somebody drops in. And so by the time the 4 of us are in there, it's like an inch. I've lost like half the life on the screen. It's dropped by that much. I'm like, the difficulty spike on this is just...
That's true pain.
You can just watch yourself slowly dying as people just as the other party members hop onto the
people to
play.
leave. Get out! Get your filthy hands off my health bar, boy. Fucking hell, I don't know what the next one was.
But yeah, it's still good fun though. 10 out of 10 would absolutely recommend it to anybody to try. At least once. If you haven't, you should try it at least once.
I did attempt to try it at one point, but it was far too demanding on my computer. My computer struggles through Elden Ring. I'm right in that sweet spot, like 25 to 30 FPS with the settings down.
That's the thing, right? So you try it with somebody else hosting the world, and then you don't have to deal with that.
I think someone else was. I'll have to go back and look. This was months and months ago. I might even have like a worse impression of it in my mind, or maybe at the time I just had a load of shit running in the background as well. Maybe it's as simple as that.
Maybe. Helldivers is another one of those I've been having a good time on, but I have been basically solo on Helldivers just because there's been nobody to play with.
You know that we play, right?
I know you guys play, but you guys play while I'm working.
Sorry.
that is literally like, you don't have to play solo. You know we play. Yeah, when do you play? Oh, yeah, right when you're working. Yeah.
How bad?
Dickheads. That's like, hey, we're having a party. Why don't you come on over? Oh, wait, you don't have a car.
If anyone out there is playing Helldivers too, please call this number on screen, because Nori is looking for friends. So we get that appeal out there now, right? There you go, Cerberus has got you.
So we've been doing content warning has been absolutely brilliant fun. I want to get back into doing some more of that. That was such hysterical time. Sir Rutherford, myself, and Zoda did a Friday night content warning and laughed like madmen through the whole time. Screamed our heads off, but still laughed like madmen too. It was right there.
Around for a while.
He's been busy.
Still active? Okay,
Yep.
just busy.
Oh yeah, been super busy. Cadiest Odin would like to know, what is your favorite book, if you read any?
I do read. It's definitely not Harry Potter. I think I've made that very clear on stream a few times. I know exactly what my favorite book is. It's the.
Are you sure? Because you didn't sound like you knew what you were going to say.
No, I had to like glance over at the shelves, which is to my right. The trouble is, it's all of my non-fiction is in here. My fiction is in the other room, and it's more likely that you're going to have that fiction is going to be your favorites, because non-fiction often has quite a dry aspect to it. Most of the books I have on my shelves are books from my studies. My very, very favorite book of all time is the autobiography, and that is a fucking rare shout because we all know how fucking tedious they are.
Yeah.
The autobiography of Leon Trotsky. I think it is one of the most incredible pieces of writing you will ever touch in your life. Now, I can't read or understand Russian, so I've had to read a translation. But he is one of the very few people for any opinions of the rights and wrongs and we're talking about a pretty awful human being in many ways. He's one of the people in life who will have genuinely been the meeting point of man of action and man of words, or person of action, person of words. One of the few.
Right.
His book, it's poetry. The sheer beauty of the prose and how well he writes, there's nothing like it. And when you add to the fact of who he was and what a seminal figure he was in 20th century politics, it is absolutely unbelievable that he wrote like he did. So you have a person at the center of all these events taking place in what you might loosely speaking, generally speaking, refer to as the Russophone world. You have this one individual, and then in the sort of international world of socialism as well, you have this one individual as central to it at the start of the 20th century as he was, and then able to write like that. It almost doesn't make sense. You almost think,
Right.
He must have been in some ways a knucklehead or something, And there was a point when I was like 17, 18, when I was a Trotskyist. I definitely wouldn't reconsider that anymore. But I read the book when I was quite a bit older, and it was really the appreciation for how well written it is that turned me onto it. And it's the only autobiography I will ever say that I can read more than once. It's incredible. Did he write it in Mexico? I think he wrote it in Turkey. I could be wrong. He definitely didn't write it after Mexico. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure. I wouldn't like to say with any certainty, 'cause I'm not sure. But yeah, the autobiography of Leon Trotsky is the one that I would always go back to. I think I've got like 3 copies of that as well. I've got a hardback copy back in my parents' house in the UK. I've got a paperback over there, and I think I've got an edition on the e-reader that I bought at one point just to make sure I could always have it with me as well. So non-fiction, it would definitely be that. Fiction, I'm not a big fiction reader. Perhaps at some point, there's a no. I'd be lying if I said I had a favorite fiction book. It would be making it up. There's a few that I like. I like Foundation, Isaac Asimov, but who doesn't? It's not that well written in terms of the prose, but it's an incredibly important book. I mean, the prose isn't poetic in any real way, but it's an incredibly important book.
I've always been a huge Asimov fan.
I love
some of his some of his works are not what I would. Yeah, I wouldn't jump up and down on some of the stuff that he has, but he does some of his. He's done some good work. I'm like, what's the word I'm looking for in here?
Well, that's where I would stand with Lovecraft as well. The Lovecraft, I wouldn't say I'm a fan of. I'm an appreciator of Lovecraft. There are some pieces of Lovecraft. I think it's The Mountains of Madness, Shadow over Innsmouth, I think. And there's something else with the person trapped in the barn as well. I can't remember, which are incredible. But there's also this entire canon of fucking nonsense shit as well. And then a whole series of unpleasant viewpoints that he held, which can color sort of the way you're reading it. So I've often found him a writer I appreciate, but I could never say I'm a fan of. And yeah, Lovecraft would be a big example of that. I think I would be more a fan of Asimov than I am of Lovecraft. Why is it important? Just very briefly, because Lady Teddy asked, why is it important? I think she's probably asking about Isaac Asimov from Foundation. You essentially have a root, and if you'll pardon the use redundantly of the word foundation, of science fiction and what science fiction becomes in the modern day. I don't know if I'm not well versed enough in the canon to say it's the first science fiction book. It almost certainly isn't, but it's one of the most archetypal science fiction books you'll ever find. Thank God. Yeah. You go back in H.G. Wells to science fiction. Yeah, that goes way back.
I was going to say, yeah, science fiction has been around for a while, but I know the book. It's very, yeah, it's very, very archetypal. archetypal. You can read other science fiction books and see the inspiration from that book in there. There's a couple of ones.
Maybe you could almost think of it in the same way that you might think of Lord of the Rings for fantasy writers, where you can just see the roots spreading from this book and it popping up in dozens and generations of authors afterwards, even those who weren't directly inspired by it.
I am going to take a very unpopular point here and say I don't think Tolkien's work by far is one of my favorite. That series, I have adored that series for a long time. Not to take anything away from him, but I don't think his work was as inspirational within the fantasy genre as what you might think.
Okay,
it's inspirational. There are definitely books where you can see that they take from this machination of his, but Tolkien's world and the story he tells with the Hobbit series and whatnot is a very old school archetypal of a hero goes to do insurmountable odds to destroy the evil nasty thing and comes back and that is, and even in some of his interviews, right, he talks about the fact that this is an old story, an old formula. He's just reused it. The Iliad has almost the same sort of thing, right? So I think it's more fair to say that Tolkien did a really good presentation of this old formula. Yes. But as far as fantasy go, I wouldn't say he wrote the book on fantasy. No, that actually could have been sitting around for centuries ahead of him.
It's hard to disagree, especially when it's framed in that way as well, that he's taken. Essentially, it's a hero's quest, which is one of the oldest of story types that we have going back. Yes. I think his true influence on fantasy is probably just how enjoyable his works are to read and how many kids he probably made want to write fantasy.
Yes.
Rather than him being the creator of any of the stereotypes of fantasy, rather than him being the creator of any of the great foundations that make up fantasy books today. It's just he made people want to write fantasy. He made people want to write about dragons and whatever the case might be, and magic and elves and orcs and yada yada yada. But yeah, with the way you say it, it's hard to disagree.
No, again, you can see influences, and that's I think that's an interesting thought point. We've got another question coming up here, but we're going to deviate just for a little in our pontificating. But I think it's an interesting thought point. I think generationally, there you go. Generationally. I think you have your major artists that not so much reinvent the thing, but maybe do the thing better than everybody else. And so within that generation, they are the catalyst for more of that same sort of what's the word I'm looking for here? They're the drivers for a more proliferation of that format.
That's a perfect way of saying it.
It's like there's words.
Take the other simple and clear example of this. Someone who didn't. That's not quite the same, but someone who didn't really do anything different from what came before, but did it in just the right way at just the right time. Think of Elvis. Think of Elvis in music and how many people he then inspired, essentially being a conduit for all these things that came before him. And he takes on this role of, becoming a generational figure that then inspires all the people who came after. It's not really a question of how much originality was in what he did. It's just the impact that he had, based upon time, place, circumstance, marketing, production, all sorts of things.
Exactly. Yeah, it becomes, and it's interesting to look at the leaders that do that, like the different people who are in the right, like Van Gogh. inspirational for his time for artistry. People remember Mozart, inspirational for music. Mozart in his day was the heavy metal, the hard rocker, and people didn't care for his music or whatnot. Today we're like, oh my word, and we're reappraising, redoing all of his work, right? And so ultimately we're all just a bunch of hard rockers from
Because
from the
if you're
Renaissance.
Baroque,
I mean,
don't fix it.
there you go, right? But it's interesting. But I mean, that's the thing, right? So like there are, for every generation there are these not so much visionaries, but they are these people who define that genre for that generation.
100%.
And it just changes as each generation goes by.
Yeah.
Which is, what's I find fascinating. But I like anthropology and watching the change of a society over a period of time.
I can't imagine anything more instantly interesting than that, to be honest. It's just inherently fascinating.
Yeah, you're kind of like, oh yeah, that's we could sit here and just talk about this for hours on end. And we absolutely could.
Anthropology Fridays. See you there.
Miss Katia Soden would also like to know, what are your top 5 favorite games?
I'm trying to think, have I played 5 games? No, I'm kidding. Top 5. Easiest to start from number 1, because I know what that is. It's Final Fantasy VII. Number 2, and I always get these in the wrong order for the diehard fans of the series. I apparently I do it in reverse order. Mass Effect 3 is my number 2 game. And my Mass Effect order for the whole series is first Mass Effect 3, then Mass Effect 1, and finally Mass Effect 2. Apparently everyone else does it the other way around. They love Mass Effect 2, then Mass Effect 1 is in second place, then 3 is at the back. I've got it the other way around. I love them all, but it's just if I have to pick an order, that's the way they tumble. Number 3, Metal Gear Solid 2, which I think is one of the most interesting games ever made. Genuinely, I think it's interesting, which oddly enough isn't something you can always say for video games. 4, What Remains of Edith Finch. And number 5, risk of sounding like the entire walking cliche that I am, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I have it in that high esteem that it's genuinely in my top video games of all time. So in reverse order, that would have been from number 5 up: Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, What Remains of Edith Finch. Was it Metal Gear Solid 2? Oh shit! What have I just done? Yeah, it was Metal Gear Solid 2. Mass Effect 3. Final Fantasy 7. Father, forgive me. I know not what I've done. And honorable mention, Death Stranding, but I couldn't find a place to put it.
See, I've got that one in my library. I keep meaning to go and play Death Stranding. I haven't, or at least try it out. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to like this. But it's in my library. I haven't installed it to test it out yet.
I think, yeah, I mean, you do need to, but I do believe it's an interesting video game that comes with the odd caveat that to really have it mean what it could have meant, in the same way that I think you have to play your first Final Fantasy as a child for it to get its hooks into you. I think you had to play Death Stranding for the first time during COVID. It was such an unusually prescient game in that moment, so bizarrely reflective of a world that we shouldn't have had any expectation of finding ourselves in. Right. That it was just perfect game, perfect time. Doesn't mean it wouldn't be amazing now, but there was something about it in that moment that was just bizarrely perfect. Bizarrely perfect.
It's interesting when things like that happen, though, right? like these coincidences turn up out of the middle of nowhere, and it's like, oh, well, that's coincidental. And it just works.
And
It just fits, and
was it
I
coincidental
roll
for
on with
something
it.
so unlikely? This
Yep.
was a world of people isolated, locked away, and you couldn't have imagined this in 2019.
Oh
And
no.
then it tumbled perfectly in 2020. It's utterly bizarre.
I think if you told anybody going into COVID in 2019, hey, you're going to spend the next couple of years locked up in your house like a shut-in from the 80s. Most people are like, are you kidding me? There's no way. I won't survive. Those of us who grew up in the 80s went, okay, that's just, life is normal.
I'm just reliving my teenage years. I've been practicing for this.
Honestly,
if you install Civ 6
they
for me, and I'll be fine.
I used to laugh because there was all those memes that came out about how like everybody's going into lockdown and people were freaking out, and meanwhile there's all these Gen X memes coming out about us being like, what, latchkey kids, yeah, bet, no problem, we got this covered.
I can tell you, it was a strange time. One of the weirdest things that got me for the first month in particular, all the way through as well to a degree, for the first few months though, was how relieving it was. I haven't got to go to work. I haven't really got to do much outside of stay alive and eat dinner. There wasn't much else to do. And
Yep.
it was such a, obviously there was a lot more to it that made it into a much more stressful situation around the world. But in
Yeah.
that weird microcosm of just being in your own place sometimes with nothing to do, it's bizarre how comfortable that was for a while.
Yep. Yeah, it was I woke up in the morning, got dressed, and then sat around and went, yeah, this takes me back.
I would wager, it's not the case for me, I don't know about for you, but I'd wager it's when a lot of people found their way onto Twitch. Just looking for some sort of that sense of socializing.
Yeah, no, I didn't actually hit Twitch until after COVID.
No, me neither. When did you start?
So my Twitch account was open in 2019, but I didn't actually take up streaming until 21.
21. Okay.
No, 22. Excuse me, 2022. I think of the year. I'm coming up on my 2-year anniversary now, so 2022.
If I click my name, am I able to see when I created my account?
No.
No. Well, that's a shame. I think it was around 2021 as well. Lady Teddy said, you bothered getting dressed. I did all the way through COVID. I made sure I got dressed and
Lady Teddy, I had to get dressed because I had to get on camera with my fellow coworkers. Like, they sent us home, but they were like, yep, you can go home, but you will be on camera for every meeting. And we're going to have double the normal amount of meetings. Like, COVID hit and I went remote work, and I generally have anywhere from 5 to 10 meetings a day, and I have to be on camera for all of them.
Please do, Lady Teddy. Now, you see, for myself, I got dressed every day, like in the same clothes I would have been wearing if I was going to work, because I just needed that sense of normalcy attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
There were weirdly two things that I did a lot during COVID, which I wouldn't normally do before outside of it. So prior to that, weekend came, I didn't really bother getting dressed for work because I wasn't going to work. During COVID, I got dressed like I was going to work, just to have a sense of normalcy. And the other thing I did was I got really into horror films. Like, I think it was a search for like a strong emotion, because so many. There's a Morrissey song where the title is "Every Day Is Like Sunday."
Uh-huh.
And for me, there was what, like, a part of COVID felt like it wasn't bad, but it was just every day is kind of the same. But then when you watched horror movies, you had this every day, like this big like jump scare or this big reaction, your heart got beating and fluttering. And that odd, like, survival instinct, that very primal fear that it instilled in you, gave each day a bit more spice and a bit more color that you might have had normally by going outside and meeting new people and yada, yada, yada. So yeah, I got really into horror movies during COVID, weirdly enough. And Lady
I
Teddy
don't know
says, "Did
that
you bother putting on pants?"
I am contractually obligated to say, yes, I wore pants to every meeting.
I can confirm this as his lawyer. I'm still your lawyer, right? We've been through this, I'm sure.
We'll get through this. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. No, seriously, it was one of those things that I had to, whether I was actually wearing pants or not, I had to say I was wearing pants.
It's suddenly making this moment feel very mysterious, considering I can see you from the elbows up. I think we've got basically the same view of me. Who knows what's happening down here?
I promise you, I'm wearing pants.
Me too. Although, what happens under the table stays under the table.
I mean, just don't look. Just don't look. I promise I won't stand up. You don't look. We're good.
Please stand up. March 5th, 2015 for my account. What?
So that's when you signed up for your Twitch, right? But do you really want to look for the first time that you streamed? Or your...
No, because I know when that was. That was 2022.
Yeah.
I think that was March 2022. Stellaris, oddly enough. Norson, notice he said obligated to say wearing pants. Not even actually wearing them. Again, as a member of his legal team, I'm advised him to say exactly no more and no less than what was previously said, and I would refer you to that comment earlier in the transcript. No further questions. Oh, wait, that's missing the point. Damn it.
Right. Sammy asks, what do you look for in a scarf? Which I find funny, since I basically threw a handmade scarf at you before you left out of here. Here, take this with you.
For anyone who doesn't know, I am a fan of quality neckwear. And I think I own more scarves than I own pairs of underwear. What do I look for in a scarf? It has to fit one of two things. And the scarf that says it does both doesn't. Never. It has to be either part of my winter collection or my summer collection. That's the first thing. You have to be a definable thing. Are you for keeping warm, or are you for style? Now, or are you exclusively for style, I should say, because the ones keeping you warm, they look good, but it's a different kind of good. Right? You get the heavy wool scarves with that appearance. In the summer, you get the light linen scarves. What do I look for in a scarf? Each one has to be different. So I think a scarf, pretty much sort of all colors of the rainbow at a certain point. Length is overrated. You don't want the scarf to be too long because you can't get a nice tie if you do it too long. There's no way to make a scarf where you wrap it around like 15 times, look elegant.
Oh, God.
You want to have nice. It looks fucking insane. It feels like you're being choked by a really weak guy. You want to have a scarf that's long enough that you can just wrap it around. You fold it in half, you wrap it around once, and then put it through, pull the loop. So length, just enough for it to settle above the navel. Color is the important thing. Yeah, material, good material. Don't waste your time on scarves that are made of good material. If your scarf isn't made of high quality material, the first time you go out in a rainstorm, it's fucked. Absolutely fucked. They don't hold up. They get wet, it runs through, and that's it. And possibly worse than that, if you get a scarf made of not great material that doesn't almost disintegrate in the rain or shrink, it'll stink. It stinks really badly. It's the thing you don't normally realize with scarves is they do retain smell. You're wearing it around your neck all day. It's getting like bits of sweat and bits of like almost like bits of food are going to go in it, I would imagine, that are breaking off, bits of drink. You need to get a good high quality scarf.
What are you doing with your scarves? Because I don't eat with my scarf on.
When I'm wearing a scarf, I don't take it off. Like, I am obsessed with scarves. The reason I'm not wearing it now is just it's not very warm here, but it's warm enough. And I've also got a bruised throat, which is a weird thing to say. But it was from...
I'm not going to apologize. You said it was okay to do that. So
And now you all know the reason. Yeah, yeah. There was a new kid at the MMA class the other day, and he was learning to apply the rear naked choke. And I said, you can come with me. And essentially, I had to just volunteer my neck to him like 20 times to choke. And it's a bizarre situation where someone has his arm wrapped around your neck, his other hand like up behind your head, and you're actively telling him how to choke you. Like, no, squeeze a bit tighter. Yeah, no, just put your hand on the back of my head and push down. It's a very surreal situation to be in. But I got my throat bruised from it. So yeah, high quality scarf. Investment actually matters. You don't want to get a cheap scarf because it's going to be a waste of time. You want to get a good range of color that you're going to have pretty much a different scarf for every day of the week. You want to have distinct summer and winter collections. You want to have the linen scarves for the summer, and you want to have the thick, nice, heavy wool scarves for the winter. And the final thing why you should be wearing a scarf is I have a theory, and it's definitely not proven, but it's still true. I have a theory that if you wear a scarf, you cannot catch a cold. That's my theory. I wear scarves and I don't catch colds. It's probably bollocks, probably bullshit, but in my experience, it works.
You know, I generally wear a jacket in my office all the time. So I don't now because I always get really nervous on Talk Tuesdays, and so it gets much hotter. So I had to take my jacket off. You missed your opportunity.
Thing we're not is at ease around each other, right? It's the one thing we're not. It's an incredibly tense situation.
It's fine. It's fine. Okay. Sniff My Peter says, how in the hell did you manage to get so dang cute?
Well, I do declare. I think that's another one that I can't answer in any way that doesn't make me sound like it doesn't make me sound like a jack off or a jackass. There's no way out. Either I play it down and I sound like I'm being a prick, or I play it up and I sound like I'm being a bigger prick. So I'm just going to say thank you, Sniff. That's very kind of you. And I love seeing you in real life. It's amazing. Did I do well?
It's your question. It's your answer. You stick with that, whatever you want to do with that.
How did you get so cute, Nori? What was your secret?
Huh? I blame my parents.
Ooh. I like using the word blame as well, not thank. Oh, that's really good.
That's the easy answer, right? It's the voice comes from my father, though. To be honest with you, the voice actually, I inherited some of my father's voice, but a lot of the way I talk and everything comes from the way I taught myself how to sing. So I used to go to church an awful lot, and I would sit in the back and do sound systems in the church when I was younger. And the gentleman who sat next to me was this really deep bass sort of singing guy. And I'm like, that's a voice I want to learn. Like that, I want to learn how to sing down there, because it was always so. You hear everybody else da 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 tinkle 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 like little bells up at the top. I'm like, no, I want to sound down there, right? Yeah, I want to be the big scary sounding voice that you hear in the background, and well, but the bass does a really nice job of rounding out the sound too. Like, I like listening to bass people. Bass guys singing on their own sounds a little one note. They're good, don't get me wrong, but you throw a bass in with some tenors and some altos and sopranos and whatnot, and that bass just fills that pocket and rounds the sound out, and it's so much more pleasant on the ears to listen to.
I mean, it's the same principle with music generally. If you think of any band that you listen to, take out the bass guitar, and it's surprising how much everything sounds worse. Everything.
Yeah, it just sounds tinny. Everything sounds tinny. That's the way I look at it. It's like, oh, let me just.
Also extraordinarily separated as well. You end up with these with the sort of, you have the drums with the bass drum in a very low end. You'll have the snare and the hi-hat and the cymbals quite high up. You have the guitars in the mid to upper range. The singer's probably not that low. A lot of mid in there. You've got nothing in that sweet pocket. Nothing.
No.
So it gets very tinny and a huge gap, and you perceive it so quickly.
Oh yeah, it's
Except
very easy.
Metallica's and Justice for All. Yeah, that's very true. Also, bizarrely mixed record. There's some beautiful fun bass playing on there, but you cannot hear a fucking thing.
But yeah, so I sat next to this guy, and so I listened to him sing all the time, and so I started trying to harmonize with him, and this was in my early teens. I was still going through puberty shift and everything else, and so I think stretching my vocal cords to reach lower octaves to sing with him kind of locked my voice into what you hear now. And so this is all because this is the way I taught myself how to sing.
Did you have? Because I noticed for myself there was some time in around the late 20s. I don't know how much of it was the cigarettes and the drugs. I don't know how much. But did you go through like a second puberty with your voice as well, where you had a voice in your sort of teens and early 20s, and then another one in your late 20s, which was lower again? Because that's what happened with me.
No, right after, so I picked up smoking in my late teens, and I smoked for about 10 years, 15 years, something like that. But the smoke actually didn't do anything to my voice. Like by the time I had gotten to that point, this was where my voice was at. Like I hit about 17, 18, and this is the way I sound now is about how I've always sounded after that point.
That's interesting. Okay.
So,
I mean, if you hit that second puberty in your next few years, fucking hell, that mic ain't gonna be picking you up.
Well, I had to tweak my mic in order for it to pick me up, right? So my mic is, and Shale will tell you, she'll come over here and talk on my mic, and she sounds like 2 or 3 octaves lower because my mic is set to pick up the lower range, because it's the only way you can actually hear me when I'm just talking normally. So I have to turn up the lower registers on my mic.
And imagine you've probably got a pass filter on there, getting rid of a lot of the high stuff as well, because you don't fucking need it. It's just not there. So you might as well clear it up.
Yep.
But then the average person comes in then, and their voice, which has all those overtones, isn't going to come through as it should.
They're much higher, and they sound funny in my microphone. But I mean, it's just the way it is.
I'll have to come back over and run the experiment. Wonder what I sound like.
Let's see.
Also, I want to know if there was a chipmunk version of your voice before.
Okay, so it's funny. I can still hi Wars. It's a Wars.
Well, look at you. Well.
One of the then you can ask Jem. She's actually clipped it because I was running around doing some Helldivers and lobbing. I do basketball with the grenades into the little holes.
Oh, as you rightly should.
Right. Well, every time I do, I got to a point where I was like Kobe for everything. But so I can tighten up my vocal cords and reach really deep. And so what you end up with is what around here we call is a gnome voice.
And so the gnome voice sounds like this. And so you go way up high and it's Kobe.
Well, I didn't expect that.
Yeah, so I can't do that for very long. I had a redeem up there where I would talk like that for like 5 minutes, and it hurts.
That is. I don't even know if I could do that. I'm not going to try, but trust me, tonight in front of the bathroom mirror, I'll be trying.
It's fun to do. It's very much so fun to do. We would go on long car trips, and I would keep my children entertained in the back by doing the gnome voice. And so we had me and my wife have a skit we do back and forth, where she does her version of the gnome, though hers sounds more childlike. And so we argue because
we're off to see the wizard, the wonderful wizard of IT, IT, because he's the information technology specialist, and that's who we're going to see. But if you ask her, we're off to see the wizard of ID, because, he's got a big ego and everything. And
I can see his face when he's doing this, by the way.
Yeah, I make funny faces when I do it. I can't help it.
Holy fuck. I feel like I think I don't. I think this is the first day I'm saying the word correctly.
But yeah, it's good times. It's fun. It's fun. Let's see. Favorite genre of music? Bombs Way asks.
Oh, too big. Now, I'm not going to say I like all genres of music because it's a horrible answer to the question, and it's also not true. My favorite.
Okay, so let's alter this, right? What is your go-to genre for work?
For work, depends on the work. If I'm doing like just some sort of repetitive, monotonous task that doesn't really require any thought,
Mm-hmm.
then I would probably go to either some sort of, I like late 60s prog, King Crimson, Pink Floyd, Peter Gabriel era Genesis. I think Jethro Tull is around then. They might be a little bit later.
Yeah.
That would, or some of the more interesting Beach Boys stuff as well. So Beach Boys songs like Surf's Up, Off Smile, that would really sort of catch me in that moment. Because I take periods of doing monotonous things. Like if I'm doing something with my hands, it's monotonous. Stop making the wanking jokes, everyone. Stop it. If I'm doing something very monotonous with my I can see you doing that. You've got a camera on now.
I know.
He was doing this. Okay, I edited the tongue. I apologize.
I was gonna say there was no tongue. Not yet, anyways.
It's but early. If I do something monotonous with my hands, for example, sealing envelopes or something like that, and then weirdly enough, I feel like it's a time to really zone in. It's almost like a meditative experience, and I can really listen to music. So if it's something like, for example, King Crimson or Gentle Giant, then I will sit there and I will listen. I will pay attention. I'll hear things I didn't hear the last time. If I'm doing something more academic, so right now I've gone back to school, I don't really listen to music when I work. I find it not, it gets distracting is probably the easiest word to use. If I'm going to the gym, then it's a lot of metal. A lot of metal and WWE wrestlers themes, because that is the ultimate gym music, along with the Rocky soundtracks. And if I'm just at home cooking, I like it's pretty easiest to like name a few artists that I would listen to, and then let you sort of decipher what the genre would be from there. So if I'm just at home working, I would listen to a lot of, like working around the house, I would listen to a lot of Peter Gabriel solo stuff, a lot of Simon and Garfunkel, a lot of the Smiths, The Cure, The Verve, Travis. All of my music was the music that the artsy fartsy kids listened to, you know?
I was going to say I know exactly the genre you've been coming from.
Yeah, it's the arty fartsy nerdy kid. It's that music.
It really is.
Yeah, and that is absolutely my jam. You can even see it reflected there in that sort of Britpop selection, that it would be Travis and it would be Pulp rather than Oasis and Blur. Oasis and Blur, it's a bit more the lad culture, let's get some beers in, let's get some coke, that sort of thing. Whereas Travis and Pulp was the more, arty farty kids. So I don't know what the genre you would pick out from that would be, but a genre I don't like would be jazz. I'm really not a jazz fan. Once in a while I can really get into jazz, but it doesn't speak to me in the way most music does. And
I think jazz is good and fun, but I think that one's really one of those you have to be in a way for the music to really strike home. I find myself listening to jazz on occasions, but I don't listen to it all the time. It's definitely, yes, it's worse. It's definitely a moods music.
And for myself, if I can add like a tiny thing onto that as well, in the mood, but also the right artist. Miles Davis, I can listen to. I would love to listen to Miles Davis. The album A Kind of Blue, I think is one of the most beautiful albums ever made. and I can listen to that with pleasure if the mood is right. But a lot of the more experimental stuff, I'm not even going to give it the time of day, to be entirely honest.
Fair. Absolutely fair. Let's see. Lady Teddy asks, if you had to spend the rest of your life inside of a video game world, which video game world would you pick?
Well, it's got to be one that's interesting. Not too interesting for obvious reasons. Okay, Final Fantasy.
If it takes longer than 15 hours to play, he's not gonna.
you do not have a very fucking optimistic prognosis for my lifespan. I mean, there's an interesting part at the end of Rebirth that I wouldn't mind. I won't get any further into that, because if anyone in the chat does happen to care about spoilers, it would spoil it quite a lot.
What's interesting is you're like, oh, you know, you would your commentary to my prognosis on your life expectancy, yet you're like Final Fantasy, you're intentionally choosing a game that is all about an apocalyptic event that's going to happen. So I mean, your life expectancy is right there. You've already picked it out.
The part I'm referencing, to be vague about it, the odds just went up as well. Let's do Mass Effect. Let's do Mass Effect. It's a nice, big, beautiful universe, and you've got this beautiful chance to end up on some wonderful farm world, not like Eden Prime, which got fucked up. On some nice, beautiful little farm world somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, maybe in the Alliance jurisdiction or in Turian's jurisdiction, and life's going to be just fine. You'll live your life. It's going to be cool. But there's a certain blandness to that. There's a lack of excitement. You know, if you just want to live a decent life, stay in this universe. This one's fine. Are we doing great? No, but we're doing okay. Mass Effect wouldn't be awful as long as you ended up in the right fucking place, opposed to the wrong one.
Right.
If not Mass Effect, then not Metal Gear Solid, because that's basically this world, but a bit more fucked up. It's not Bloodborne. Oh God, it's a really awkward question.
It really is. It's one of those questions I find interesting when it comes up, and it inevitably does come up during one of these Talk Tuesdays, because there's. If you've played the game franchise at all, then you already know the directionality. And so you're basically dependent on a single person or a group of persons doing the right things to keep it all from just blowing up in your face.
And I hope they do. And that's also one of the interesting little tidbits about it as well, is how much, when you think about your theoretical life, how much are you giving yourself protagonist syndrome? Because, Final Fantasy VII is a fucked up world, but there's a whole load of people who aren't in that situation. Like the people who are just kind of like going about living life reasonably well, the upper middle classes in that world, I get the impression they live a pretty fucking solid life. On the other hand, to be right at the bottom of the pile, that's a fucking bad place to be. Like their bottom of the pile is a big fucking heavy pile of shit.
It really is. Because they're all, every time you see the bottom of the pile, they are the absolute lowest low. Their life is absolute. Like, it's very extremes. Exactly. There's not a happy middle.
So I'm going to go with Mass Effect then, just because statistically I'm probably going to end up on some isolated farm world somewhere. And also the Asari are in that world and they're hot as fuck. So to get back to all of the heavy sexual imagery from the first half of the stream, I could hopefully bang a lot of Asari. There you go. Mass Effect. Ideally before the Reapers arrive. A long time before.
Well, and that's another tidbit, right? Because nobody, the question comes up is just a generic question, but there's no thought to continuity of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I would go live in Zelda series post Ganon defeat, pre Ganon return. Right? It's great. It's fantastic. Everybody's got plenty of food. They're all running around playing, having a good time. There's The various different races are all coordinated, working together. There are small skirmishes here or there, yeah, but for the most part, everybody's just happy getting along with everybody, and it's a lovely place to live.
Well, now you're making Dragon Quest actually sound very nice as well. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
as soon as the big bads are gone, it's fine. It's
Yeah,
actually
it's
very
fine.
nice.
It's a lovely place to visit, right?
You could have picked a boring one to say, take like the Wii Fitness Resort.
No. Wii Fitness is right out. I don't have that much energy to sit around and.
I'm quite sporty, but I will say that almost all of the sports you could do on Wii Fitness would. No, I'd rather watch flies fuck. Say the word satisfactory. Yeah, sure.
I'm not allowed to play that game, so you're on your own.
I think that's another one I've tried to run in my computer. It was happy at the very beginning, but as soon as you start really getting anything going, it ain't happening. Fuck it. RimWorld. Put me in RimWorld. I'll be fine. There you go. Job done.
Yeah.
Gonna make joke now about how RimWorld isn't the rimming I thought it was. No, carry on.
No, you're just fine. We're actually running short on time, so we're going to get these last couple of questions in here, and then we have customary things, and then a few other little odds and ends we have to take over, and so we're going to run a little bit long today. I hope that's okay with you.
Works for me.
But yeah, this is where, like I said at the beginning, that 3 hour comes and goes so fast.
I actually really didn't notice. let me do the impolite thing and just literally grab a beverage. It'll take me about 15 seconds. I'll be back.
Yeah,
and I'll be sat here.
Go for it. Yep, you're good.
I'll put my BRB screen on. That'll achieve nothing, but you're getting it.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Literally achieves nothing, but it's fine. While he's away taking care of that, we'll take care of a few little. We'll do a few little housekeeping bits real quick here. For those of you here hanging out, we do Talk Tuesday every Tuesday. So far, at least, and as long as we have wonderful guests who are coming to participate. Next week, Talks Tuesday's guest is going to be a lady from the UK. Her name is Drinkabell. If you know who she is, then you're in luck. It's going to be a treat. If you don't, then it's not. You'll want to come by and stop by and meet a new friend. They do a lot of various different games, variety streamer, also a fun and fantastic individual. So you don't want to miss out on that. If you're interested in joining in and being at Talk Tuesdays, the only requirement is you have had to stream within the last 365 days. So within the last year, you have to have streamed once. Then just reach out to me via messages, either DMs or whatever you would like. Drop an email. If you somehow manage to have my phone number, call me. I'm not certain how you want to do that, but but yeah, it's Talk Tuesdays by volunteers. So this looks like fun. This looks like something you're interested to do. If you want to make some new friends, come on by a Talk Tuesday. They're an absolute blast. We'd love to have you. I think Calm just showed back up. So
always watching.
Always. But
thank you, Wars.
Love to have you. There you go. Right.
Hey,
Calm is
the one thing I can
guest.
do at this point is I can vouch for the pleasure that Talk Tuesday is. Well spoken as a viewer multiple times, and now finally as a participant for it. It is an absolute blast.
I try to make certain that everybody's having a good time around here. Been working hard to update the format a little bit, but
Zoda constructed. Oh, baby.
Oh, baby. Hiya, Zoda. No, unfortunately, Wars' Talk Tuesday, it was not pleasant for her. I had a lovely time. But she was going through power outages issues at the time.
Oh, no. Yeah. That's unjust. I'm sorry, Wars.
It really was. That's all right. We'll get her back for another one.
Yes. Get on Talk Thursdays.
I'll sucker her into it for one. But So, Lady Teddy also asked, how do you gracefully take a compliment?
That's such a douchey one. Thank you, a small smile, and move on with the conversation. Possibly even return a compliment if you'd like to. Life's not that hard. I think the one thing you don't do is go, what? Just don't do that, and you'll be fine. Small
Wait.
smile.
But that's my whole process. You just threw it all out in one. God, man. Let's start over again now.
No, I will say don't make the return compliment transactional though. You're not giving a compliment because the other person gave you one. It can just be a nice thing to do. Yeah, maybe there's something you want to say. Maybe that person does have the deepest of blue eyes. You know, your hair is like an ocean, yada yada yada. Maybe
Right.
that's the right moment.
Maybe.
But if not, a thank you and a genuine thank you, a smile, and then you can carry on with the conversation. It's not that hard. I say that as someone who has run away from someone complimented before. It is not wars. It is not.
It is
What would
fine
you do if
and
someone
fantastic.
compliments you? Do you panic? Do you like get out of there?
Me? I run
Yeah.
for the hills. I bury my head in the sand. I'm gone. You did what? Huh? What? I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear you on that one.
When?
No, don't worry about Vladimir Plead. I won't get it a second time. It's fine. It's fine.
And wars panics if the business rate offer more than one. More than one.
Yep.
Wars, you're beautiful, you're funny, you're charming, and I miss you. Just say thank you. Just say thank you. That's all you got to do. Don't alt F4. Or use
Speaking
that
of
emote.
wars, she asked, "Did you enjoy the Power Wash Simulator?"
Fucking hell. Shit game. It's the gaming equivalent of golf. It's awful. It's bland. It's dull. But it's kind of great. It's the formula that shouldn't work but does. It's one of those mystery recipes where you think, it's sweet and sour. This really shouldn't go together, but it does so well. Something about Power Wash works when all of the individual ingredients say that it really shouldn't. So what I actually think of it, it's pretty fucking good. But I would never play it on my own. Oh, as War says, shit game, great company. You know what? That is the last time that I spent 2 paragraphs saying something when I could have just said that. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. Did you play Power Wash, Nori?
Negatory. I
Good,
watched you and Wars play at one time, and I was convinced that was not going to be a game for me. I've watched some people play Lawnmower Simulator, and I'm like, I did that as a job when I was a kid. Why would I play a game based around that? Like, I'm like, seriously, I spent 12 to 14 hours a day doing that game in real life when I was 15. I don't even like doing it for my own lawn. I'm not doing it virtually. Screw that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if you had like roofing simulator. No, that ain't fucking happening. No matter how good someone says it is, I ain't doing it. But there's something to be said though for the banal, for the normal, for the normal simulators or normality simulators, if you will. Truck Simulator, for example, I'm a big fan of. I think it's an incredible game. I couldn't say exactly why I like it as much as I do. But particularly American Truck Simulator, I think is absolutely outstanding. And this whole family of games has emerged not from that, but from the same roots. So whether it be Truck Simulator, whether it be what's it called? Agriculture, Farming Simulator, whether it be Power Wash Simulator, whether it be Lawnmower Simulator, whether it be the more classic iterations, things like Flight Simulator, or whatever that really fancy racing one is called that I can't remember the name of, but a friend of mine is really into it. Those, something about them appeals to us, and I couldn't quantify it for a moment. But when you find the one that fits for you, it can be really hard not to play it.
Yeah.
For me, it's
Oh,
Truck
yeah.
Simulator. Do you have like one that you would play, or is it really those kind of games aren't up your street at all?
No, they're just not up my street.
Okay.
So a lot of that's got to do with my background. So like I hit 15, I didn't know what I wanted to do for a living. So for like 10 years from 15, we'll say mid 20s, I literally bounced from job to job to job. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I did landscaping, I did welding and soldering, I did roofing, I did plumbing, I did electrical work, I did like I literally went down the lines of, do I want to do this job? Try it. No, I'm going to find me a different job. How about this one? No, next job. So
That's kind of great though.
Oh, it was fantastic. I got to try a lot of different things and decide that I don't want to do half of any of those, but I have the knowledge and a little bit of the skill sets to still make use of some of that stuff and do things as if I need to.
But that's that beauty is you know you don't like them.
Oh, yeah.
You took the chance. Roofing in particular is the one I'm thinking of because that's hard going. It was the only one I did from the list you mentioned. It is hard fucking going. I mean,
roofing
look
easy.
at how white we both are. Oh no, God, get out there in the summertime. Do roofing.
No.
These white legs.
Roofing is easy because with a roof, you have something stable to stand on. Yes, it's at a pitched angle all the time, but it's stable to stand on. Siding sucks because you're up on a walkboard that is being held in place by two nails on the roof and a pole that wobbles every time the breeze comes through. Screw that mess. You're up 5-6 stories up in the air on something that you crank up. It takes two guys, one on either one of these poles. You crank it up and then you slowly lower this thing back down. And every time the wind comes by, you're like, oh, I hope I nailed those nails into a freaking stud. Because otherwise, me and this entire metal platform I'm standing on is going to go 40 feet straight down.
So I'm just checking. You don't recommend it, right?
But even that pales. Sure. That pales in comparison to my work as a paramedic. That was stress on a whole different scales, and even that was okay. But if you've got a solid fear of heights, I would say don't go into anything that's antenna work related. Like I took a I did a wireless
I hope we're
points.
Gonna figure that out for ourselves.
Well, so I worked for an ISP provider, and we did Wi-Fi internet. So we did broadcast, and so I would go with the guy up the cell phone towers, 300, 400, 500, 600 feet up in the air to hang our antennas. And when you're up that high on one of these cell phone towers, literally the whole thing swings 3 feet. You're swinging on top of this thing 3 feet. No.
I mean, is this the structure is swinging?
Yes.
The actual tower. I mean,
yes.
That's a bizarre combination of disconcerting and reassuring. I mean, it's swinging because it really needs to. So that's a good thing. On the other hand, it's fucking swinging.
It is terrifying. It is terrifying when you accidentally drop your screwdriver. It goes 300 feet straight down, and by the time you crawl back down there to go find the thing, it's buried itself 3 feet in the ground. There's just a hole there. And you're like, if I drop down on somebody's head, I'm just going to kill them.
Yeah. I was just going to say, it's like in golf. Like, in golf, like if you hit the ball and it's heading towards people, you shout for. Is there a thing in this? You shout down? No. I presume the sound wouldn't even carry that far, would it?
No, there's no getting sound down to them. You're like, look out, boy. They're not going to hear anything. What? They're not going to hear you over the wind. Like we're up on these towers. I'm standing working side by side with a guy up there. We've got headsets on in order to talk to each other. Yeah. No.
Jeez. No. Hold on. Another thing to note down: don't become a antenna operator. Okay.
Yeah. I would not recommend. And Mr. Zutta asks, favorite ice cream flavor?
I don't like ice cream. Probably one of the few people who would say that, but I really don't like ice cream. There's 4 foods in this world that I don't like, 2 of which I actively detest. One is chocolate. I do not like chocolate. It's weird flavor. Like if someone gives me a tiny bit, I'll eat it. I don't detest it. Ice cream, I don't like. I've never felt like an ice cream. If I were to have it, hazelnut, I would probably have. And the 2 that I detest are cherry and coconut. Like those are just like the only 4 things. Outside of that, I've never found a food that I don't like. I've never found a food that I don't really love food, and I don't really hate food. It's pretty much all is just, it's nice variety. It is what it is. But I don't really have any extreme positives or negatives for food. But ice cream just doesn't do it for me. Chocolate neither.
Just not your jam, huh?
Not my jam. A bit of it's probably like the sporty thing, like it as well. It's like there's a tiny bit of me which is just like, if I see like junk food, I'm just like, oh, what about my macros? You know, like I could be having almonds now. But ever since I was a kid, didn't like it. Ice cream, chocolate, bacon, and cheese. Oh, I'm gonna make it worse, Dawson. I don't eat meat, so the bacon, that's out. I do very much like cheese though. So the cheese is the cheese I think we can still bond on, and there's a whole world of cheese out there, as we know. So I think between us, there's going to be plenty for us to bond over as the months and the years go by, as we go closer.
We shared a lovely bowl of ramen when you were down here, so that was good.
We did. That was delicious. That was absolutely delicious, and it was just really reasonably priced, nice place.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was beautiful.
Oh, it was fantastic. The one downtown, the other shop that they own downtown is more of that traditional Japanese hole in the wall feeling. Like they have stools in there, they have the cloths that hang down on the front door and everything else. It's fantastic.
If I can minorly plug someone else, if anyone does have an interest in ramen, by the way, then Love and Fury, whose name you may have seen mentioned in the chat earlier, is a ramen aficionado. A ramen like connoisseur, a genuine ramen fiend, really interested in the making of ramen as well. So if you do have any interest in ramen, ask Love and Fury, Love_and_Fury, because he knows what he's doing. and if I can very quickly spit the question at you as well.
You're welcome to me. So this has come up a few times. If I'm going to sit down and eat ice cream, my preference to ice cream is it's a flavor called Moose Tracks. It's basically a vanilla with a chocolate fudge ribbon through it, and then they've thrown in Reese's peanut butter cups, like little mini peanut butter cups in it. It's like I will. It takes me a while to eat a tub of that because I'm not a huge sweet fan. Seriously not a huge, but growing up my mother was big into desserts, and so like we field tested all of her desserts. I'm lucky I'm not diabetic more so than I am now. So I don't do a lot of like heavy sweet. It's just not a thing for me. Pass. Thank you. So yeah, if and when I sit down and when I'm in the mood to eat ice cream or sugar like that, then that's what I will go for is Moose Tracks.
Moose Tracks. Because Tracks is the thing they leave with their feet.
Yeah, TRACKS. It's nice because it's a lot of vanilla because it's I like vanilla. Vanilla is sweet, but it's not like super sweet, and it's a very bland sort of flavor. The fudge in it is a bit salty. So you get that salt in the fudge to balance the sweet from the vanilla, and then there's the chocolate and peanut butter that gets kicked if you decide to eat the peanut butter cups. If you decide to just stick them out because you're like I can't stand peanut butter, I want nothing to do with peanut butter, you can just kick the peanut butter cups to the side, and it's still a nice vanilla fudge, so a sweet salty chocolate ice cream. So not bad.
Well, vanilla's a perfect base. Perfect base. Used to. Its lack of flavor sort of plays into its hand. Whenever we used to make pancakes, we used to make it with just a little bit of vanilla sugar as well as sugar, and just what that did for anything you put on top of it was beautiful. If you will, vanilla was like the bass player of the meal. It was just that little foundation that made everything on top of it a little bit better. I looked at the picture, by the way, of the Moose Tracks, and it looks incredibly incredibly heavy. Wow.
Yeah,
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I like. It takes me a while to get through that. Like, I don't power through a bottle of that anytime soon.
Okay, my man's not sitting there with the ice cream scoop just shoving it in.
No, hell no. That's far. Like, I'll get a bowl out of it. I can almost get a month out of a small tub of that.
I can imagine that. Looking at it, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I don't sit. It's just too much for one sitting. There's no way. Yeah, I can get about a month out of it. I'll take a little bit here and there and be like, okay, I'm good.
Hey man, I've taken your coffee recommendation. It was incredible. Maybe I'll even take out your. Maybe I'll take that recommendation too. Maybe I'll try it.
Coffee's good. The coffee was good. I still drink that coffee. It's
brother, that coffee that you let me try. Oh la 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 la.
Good
Thoroughly
stuff.
enjoyed it. Yeah, kind of ruined the rest of the coffees for me.
Well, we are a bit of coffee snobs around the house here, just because we know what we like.
It's my favorite kind of snob. I've just seen, by the way, just in the chat, faux over ramen. I hate it. Oh, Norson, by the way, that Mass Effect comment, fantastic. What is faux? PHO. I actually don't know what that is.
You'll have to get a more detailed answer. So faux is so it's like,
I'm
what?
so sorry, everyone.
Yeah,
right.
it's pronounced
well,
fa.
Lady Teddy, folk off. All right, I didn't ask.
But fa is it's a noodle dish. It's comparable to ramen, but it's a Korean or Vietnamese. There you go. Broth, rice noodles, herbs, meat, and chicken.
So pho or pho is a Vietnamese soup dish. It's a broth, rice noodles, herbs, meat, and chicken. I'm pronounce that worse every time, by the way, just so you know. Pronounce fee. Okay. Thank you, Lady Teddy. And thank you, Sodicus.
Phi.
Right. Rice noodles. Fucking
Pronounce fee, fi, fo, fum.
there's only a few more.
Damn, somebody's brought in an Englishman.
As someone who likes MOBAs, as someone who lives for rice noodles, they are fantastic. I've never heard that name. I looking at it, I've eaten that, but I've never heard that name in my life. Huh.
There you go. Learn something new.
Yeah. I feel like this has been a seminal moment.
I'm a big fan of learning something new every day. Like,
yeah. I try not to. My brain's got limited capacity, and I try to keep room for Final Fantasy trivia. Don't want to push it away.
Oh, fantastic! Absolutely fantastic.
That's the stupidest joke of the bunch. But yeah, thank you to everyone thank you to everyone who jumped in and actually offered up that advice, because, like I said, I had never heard of this. And Lady Teddy said there's a restaurant named, I'll pronounce it correctly, for fucking. So pronunciation is important. Well, who'd have thought?
Who'd have thunk it, right?
Who'd have thunk it? Mother flippers. Sorry, mother focus. Sorry.
Yes, we're trying to wrap up.
Speaking of.
There we go. That button. I'm trying to find the buttons.
Oh, no.
I'm hitting all the wrong ones. But yes, so I think those were the last of the submitted questions. We have we have 2 remaining questions and 2 last points of business that we need to take care of. And then you, my friend, are free to go hit the hay, get some sleep. It has been an absolute treasure and pleasure to have you here.
Rush, you're crazy.
Why?
Let's go calm down. Why not, of course.
Can we eat? So 2 points of business, right? The first one is any big plans for the upcoming year. Like we're still I think we're just reaching the halfway point in 2024. So you've still got a bunch of time still left to do a number of different things. Anything big in your plans for 2024?
Now, in the interest of being sure, is this in the sense of personal or is this in the sense of Twitch?
Streaming, not streaming, that sort of anything that you want to talk about or, you know, share with the group, like, hey, this is something I'm really passionate and excited about coming up. For all I know, you'd be like, hey, I've got a concert because I formed a band and we're going to be launching our debut album here. I'm like, okay, let's go. Rock on, brother.
And I'm not playing bass because it's a shit instrument that does nothing. Well, a personal thing, which is just for me, which I'm kind of addicted to telling people, which is ironic. I just gave up smoking, and I'm very keen for that to remain a thing. The trouble is, I am now addicted to telling people that I've given up smoking, which is slightly awkward because I get the same kind of high from. No, it is because now I'm telling people I don't even know. Meeting people at the bus stop.
I don't know.
I've quit
hey,
smoking.
Did you know I quit smoking?
It's hard, man. I'm addicted to it. Yeah. And see those little congrats that you see there? Yeah. Every fucking time, man. Every time. It's a little bump. It's a little bump. It's just it's a hit. I'm in the second and soon to be third semester of going back to school as an adult, which was a weird situation. But I feel like I'm kind of in there now. And as Norson said, the first 2 weeks are the hardest for quitting cigarettes. I felt the first semester was the hard part of getting back to college, and now I feel like I'm kind of into both, which is a really, really pleasant feeling. It's also, by the way, much easier to quit smoking when you're not paying West Virginia prices anymore. When you're back to paying fucking European prices, and
no kidding.
I think it's real. Oh la la. And then for a more, and thank you very much for the clap and the congrats and so on. And for a more sort of stream relevant comment, I am planning on getting back to streaming in the next few weeks on a 2-stream a week schedule, which seems like a really manageable thing to do. I've got no interest in going further beyond that. Just sort of two times a week, just to be able to grab the community together. Because the one thing I think Twitch is simultaneously good at and bad at is the social links you make through it. You can make a lot of very, very surface level relationships with people, but if you get past that, there's a beautiful amount of of genuine friendships you could make. And I'd like to get back to that because you met some wonderful people on Twitch. Thank you very much. It looks so weird. Thank you very much. So yeah, that'll be in the later. He says, you have friends. If I do, you're not amongst them. So that'll be in the next couple of weeks, 2 times a week, most likely once in the week and once on the weekend, probably Wednesday and Saturday. And yeah, rather than playing any new games, I'm going to take the chance to play old games that I like so that I can essentially shower them with praise. If you imagine the way that I speak about Nori, that effervescent praising that I just can't help, it's just going to be that. It's going to be hours of me staring at games I like, telling you why you should like them, which of course, as we all know, is a surefire way to make you like them. Because who doesn't love it when a friend tells you, play this, it's amazing, play this, it's amazing, play this, it's amazing.
And in case I didn't tell you that, to play this, it's amazing.
Yeah. If I wasn't clear, I would just like to make sure that, that's really locked down. This is the right kind of goofy, man.
Yeah. Oh, it's what we live for around here, right? And the second one is, if you had to give a piece of advice to somebody looking to start streaming, an earlier yourself starting streaming up, something that you think would help somebody to grow, right? Something that you've learned in your time streaming that you're like, oh, if I just had known this when I started, that would have really made a difference. What would you say to that person?
Raid people. Raid people at a similar level to you, and don't raid them in a transactional way where you're waiting for them to raid you back and bring the community your way. Go out there and don't network, but just make friends. Take your community to new and interesting places. Meet these people. If you've got 2 viewers, find someone else with 2 viewers. Go and raid them. Make their day, and talk to them. all of the people on Twitch, not all, but a strong foundation of the people, as I said, no, that's absolute bullshit. A strong foundation of the people I've ever met on Twitch were people that I met when I had one viewer and I raided them and they had one viewer. Juicy GI, who is still the person I've been longest sub to, is a person who I met on my very first raid. Momus is a person I met when he, like I said, he raided me with 6 viewers and I had 4 or 7 and 5, wherever it was. Wars I met via Momus from a very, very similar path. This was how we all met, and it was just through meeting and trying to be a bit more than just another name in the chat. It was trying to go out there and make friends, because in a non-pessimistic way, you're probably not going to be gigantic on Twitch, but you can find a good community. You can find a good group of people to hang around with. And the best way that you're going to do that is go and meet some people and hang around with them. And the second thing, get a decent microphone. It'll change your life.
Right?
You know that part's true.
Absolutely fantastic. Okay, so last bit of business, my friend, and I will release you to your relaxation techniques necessary to calm down. We have a collection of fantastic and amazing new friends that we have all made sitting right here. And as we always do on Talk Tuesday, we send a raid out to whoever you suggest, so we can go and tell them about Talk Tuesday and about our wonderful guest tonight, one infamously gorgeous and amazingly spectacular AM Com Nanos.
How dare you?
It's my stream. I will do what I dare. It's my stream. I do as I dare.
Let me check if this person is at a point in the stream when they might be talking. Because if they're not, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. Do you want me to PM it to you or put it in the chat?
You can just stick it right in chat. Because then I will just.
Or web address?
I need. Just put the username. It's fine. I have a little command that I'll run that will pipe the raid commands and then do the actual raid command itself. So if it's just username, and it's easy.
I don't know this person that well. I kind of know them, but it's more, I am based in Central Europe. None of my people are online right now. So this is one of the people that I kind of know, and Sniff already knows who we are. So it's a Dino there that you will see just there, which I think is someone we met via the Calm Fury a long time ago. Can I, by the way, just say thank you very much for having had me, because I've had an absolute blast. This has been really, really great. And to everyone who's been here, whether you were here from the start or from the end, it's really, really been the best. So thank you very much. And if I can just say.
So for everybody, we did the Twitch shout out, so you get the little heart at the top of your screen. If that's not lit up, oh my word, what are you doing with your life? You're failing everything. Click that, light it up, go catch this amazingly gorgeous man next time that he he goes live on a Twitch. It's a truly fantastic time. Meanwhile,
not as good as he had,
so I am going to close up shop. So I'm going to go ahead and mute myself in Discord. If
Can you want to do just one tiny thing for me?
Sure.
Just before you sort of fade me into the background, can I ask you to do the thing that I always ask people to do at the end of the stream, which is I'd like to ask you to do the one thing that I've been unable to do with most of my sexual partners. Could I ask you please to bring this stream to a satisfying climax?
Well, we have exit music and everything else, and I promise we'll reach the very, very tip of the end. Hey, and Lillian showed up just in time. She came in already. Thank you, Lillian. You fantastic lady. Another fantastic streamer. It's, we have just a ton of amazing people. Hi, Hales.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, exactly.
3
right.
seconds of Hales.
It's fantastic. Gom, thank you. I know this is really late in the evening. You've stayed up well past your bedtime, I would imagine.
Yeah, my weekday bedtime, certainly.
Yeah. Yes, we had to start a little earlier because, time zone differences being what they are. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning for Com. If we had moved to normal, it would have been way late. We will most likely be doing Talk Tuesday again next week at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as well, because our next guest star is also from the UK. So again, more fancy hours. But definitely don't want to miss out on this. Com, you have been absolutely fantastic and phenomenal. A true, utter powerhouse of sexual tension here.
Oh, thank you. I was trying to calm my erection in time for next week.
It's been fantastic. All right. I'm going to deafen. We're going to go to the end screen. Again, thank you, Com. It has been absolutely fantastic.
Thank you very much.
All right. And so that's the right button. Here comes the end screen, but have no fear. We're not quite done yet. No, we are going to go send a raid over to Dino Dare as selected by our special guest this evening. You guys have been fantastic, amazing, wonderful, extra special, and unbelievably ecstatic to be here for this Talk Tuesday. I have been ecstatic. I've been having such a good time. We've got to know an awful lot about AM Com Nanos, and it's just been a magnificently marvelous time. Don't forget, next week, Drink a Bell, same time, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Most likely. It may shift, but most likely 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You guys continue to be fantastic and absolutely amazing. We are going to go send this raid out over here, but we're going to wait for this music to finish up because, that's what we're here for. Oh, baby. Friday night, we should be back on track with our normal shenanigans. So look for Elden Ring. I will be there. We will have the world open. Come join in. Come join us. It'll be fun. Be good times. And then, as far as I know, BG3 will still be on Sunday, and Saturday we will get back to more of our storied Saturday. This Saturday, I may even have us some extra special guest people appearing for our Storied Saturday. So some extra readers, and we may just do a full 2 hours of story time. So that'll be fun. Be absolutely fun. Phoebe! But you fantastic folks, here we go. We are going to go say hi to a Dino Dare. So there are all the raid messages. Well, us scream in my ear. Big thanks to our raiders, G. Frankie, and your fabulous community for coming out and meeting us here for a Talk Tuesday, and our resubs, lovely Miss Lou. Thank you for the resub. Again, you guys have all been fantastic. You've been amazing. And, as always, continue to be the fantastic, fabulous, and amazing people that I already know you are. And until next time, well, you know how this goes. Bye for now.